Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
It's Faith in the booth because Matt Morrell's on vacation, probably at some Marvel cosplay convention.
Comic-Con.
Drunk, trying to yell at people.
Some Marvel cosplay.
Our social media manager, he said, why don't we dress up for all our road games? So when we go to Dallas with cowboy hats, what are you talking about? So he's become cosplay parent.
And we don't have to make a rash decision. And I mean,
He just does that. He can't help himself.
Unbelievable.
Just after we had one of our listeners write and say, "Hey, thanks for not swearing because I have my little kid." You don't think that they have all the info now?
Yeah, but I think they had all the info from his side.
No.
3 days after it happened,
but
they decided to let it play out.
But you don't
Law
think that they have
enforcement
all
sources.
the info that is?
Yes,
is-
I think they have all the info.
Okay.
I don't think any of it is positive.
That's my next question.
I think they're just waiting it out. That's all.
Will you let me finish? Jeez.
I hate the Raiders for the tuck rule. The rule was correctly called. I'm sorry.
I know.
I don't know what you want us to do. Throw away the rule book, I guess.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It's Thursday here at Gillette Stadium, and it's Deuce, it's Alex, it's Evan.
Evan, that's right.
I got messed up because I said Alex, and I started thinking about Alex Barth, and then I said, well, Evan's here.
Yeah, Barth will be in later for Catch 22.
He will.
That's true.
And Matt is back in the booth,
Yeah.
fresh from Sesame Street
Cosplay.
place. Where
No
what's
cosplay.
it called?
Sesame Place.
Sesame Place
In Pennsylvania.
Wow, all the way to Pennsylvania
What
for
brought you down there?
Yeah.
Big Bird.
It's kids.
The kids, it was the last year they could do it, so
I never knew there was such a place.
No.
I went there when I was a kid. It's been
I thought
around
it
for
was
30
East
years.
34th Street in New York. I didn't know that there was an actual Sesame Place.
Who's your favorite Sesame character?
I was the Count.
Yeah.
The Count?
I like that guy.
Oh, yeah?
That's my guy.
I'm a Cookie Monster.
Cookie
fan.
Monster?
Shocker.
That's like real life.
That's
Mine
not
was Oscar
surprising.
the
My new
Grouch.
Cookie Monster
Grouch,
hat.
right?
Oh, I like that. There we go.
Lives in a
Oscar
trash
the,
can.
the trash can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Just grumpy all the time.
Yeah.
Kind of like someone we know.
Anyway, we're here, and yesterday, Mac Jones had his event with Noble
Yeah.
here at the field house.
Threw the ball over some mountains, I think,
Yeah.
in one of those videos. It looked
And,
pretty- well, you guys were there. Tell
There
us
was
all
coverage.
about
There'll
it.
be stuff going up on Patriots.com today. So, it was what you call, just a feel-good type event with the local boys. Was it Boys and Girls
It was the
Club?
YMCA.
YMCA. YMCA.
It was like 30 kids, private event. They got to do some drills,
Catch
whip the
some
ball
passes.
around with Mac. It was
Yeah.
fun.
Some people got to meet Mac.
Evan had his first. Evan met the community relations team for the first time yesterday.
That's true.
He's a football guy. He
These
doesn't do-
people
he doesn't
sit
relate
in
to
my
community.
row. They sit.
What-
They share a cube section with the social team.
I don't know why this is so surprising to you.
Evan's worked here a year. He met Donna for the first
Absolutely
time.
no offense to anybody. They do a great job. I mean that sincerely. Why would we be in the same circles?
Yeah. He's just all he does is football. He's
Well,
not trying
you
to. He's
work
not here
with
to
them.
help people.
I mean, it's like being social.
They're on our floor.
Yeah.
They're
It's
coworkers.
like, hey, how you doing? That
So
kind
then
of
I
I-
have film to
I'm-
study. I don't have time for these things.
So the girls
Exactly.
that work on Donna's team, Hannah, Andrea, they're all there too. So I'm like, you guys, can you believe Evan just met Donna today? Like I'm
who's Evan?
joking about it. And they were just like awkwardly quiet. And I was like, wait, have you guys also never met Evan?
Have you met Evan?
Well, Donna's one of the most interesting people
Yeah.
that works here. I mean, she's amazing. I just found out she went skydiving. I mean, all the players know her, love her.
Yeah.
She does, I mean, the best things for the football team.
She
here.
keeps them busy.
Yeah.
It was great to. Obviously, I leave the CR events mostly to Alex here, but it was great to see that side of things and see that Mac in that light too. I think it definitely, if some of the people in our way of life, the reporter field and things like that call him a brat and call him all these things because of how he conducted himself last year. If they saw him in this environment, I think that they would have a much different idea of what his personality is
Right.
truly like and what he's like as a human being. I mean, the kids ate it up. Like they loved him.
But more importantly, you seem to have something going on with Mac. What is this? Like he picked you out of a crowd of hundreds.
Do you want to tell the
Hundreds.
story or me?
Hundreds. It was like 5 of us.
Oh.
I'm not telling the story myself.
There's
If
a
you
big
wanna-
group of
That's how I
us.
got Alex to come on the show. Like,
There's a big group of us. I know I had a big deadline with my magazine story, but I
this
came
is
down
more
here.
important.
This was important, I think.
Ragging on me is more
It's not even
important.
bragging. I think that you had a great life moment, and I knew you were too humble to tell everyone else about it, so I had to come do it.
Yeah, I'm humble.
So do tell.
I'm so humble.
So I finish up my interview with Mac for this nice little piece about him playing with all these kids, whatever. And then the social team gets him to do a shout out. There's just a lot of people kind of congregated, YMCA staff. Evan's tucked behind all of it. Just
Yeah,
kinda
I was
staying out of the way.
I was shadowing
Neutral
Alex. Like
observer.
I wasn't trying to get in anybody's way, just for the record.
So Max says bye to all of us and starts to kind of like he's about to shift his weight, walk away, sees Evan behind some people and goes, "Oh, Evan, what's up, brother? How you doing?" And Evan's like, "Oh, good. Yeah, how are you, man?" They shake hands, zap each other up, whatever. Evan's like, "I'm great. How are you?" And Mac goes something to the extent of, "Just itching to get back out there, babe."
Wow. He dropped
Called
the
him babe.
And
babe.
I think
That's a
Evan,
Brady thing.
Evan was just
Dropped
lost
the tongue.
for words.
He dropped it.
But
You were lost
I was
for
not
words.
expecting the
But
babe.
that tells me that you have some type of prior relationship with him.
Well, so
Yeah.
I think this really started. This really started last year. Well, I was here for his rookie year too, but I would say last year I would always come into his press conferences during the week on Fridays. Usually he does his presser and ask him football questions, like the real nerdy football questions that I tend to do. And after a while, he kind of was like, "Oh wow, you watch the film, like you see what you're saying here and things like that." And so we kind of built off of it from there. And then there were some moments in the locker room and things like that where he's busting my chops and things like
But here's the lesson to anyone who is working a beat or, for any sport and any team. Show up. Come to every press conference. Go to every charitable event that you can for players. And then they will get to know you. They're not robots. They're like us. If you were them, you would know who's in the room and you recognize faces. So show up and be there, and they'll recognize you.
And that's one thing about Mike Reese. Like, those community events are not beneath him. He's at most of them.
He's at
It's usually
yes.
me and Mike Reese. We
And that's
get to know
sometimes-
each other real well.
That's sometimes those side conversations is where you get the real juice.
Oh, you see him
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
Mike Reese knows what he's doing.
Yep.
He's a
Certainly
pro.
does.
He knows what he's doing, and he's one of the best
There's-
for a reason.
But show up.
absolutely.
Show up. When you have a chance, show up.
Yeah, Alex told me about this event for like a month now. We've been talking about me going to it, and I'm not gonna like Mike Reese was the inspiration. Like I see him going out there to these community events during the off season, and it does help him, I'm sure, immensely, because then we get into the season and there might be a play or a thing that he wants to talk to a guy about, and now they have some sort of a rapport with each other, and it's also. It's good to show that you care about them as people. Like it's not just about football. Mike Reese doesn't show up to these events to get X's and O's breakdowns from Mac Jones. Like he goes to these events to be able to get to know these guys. And there was one little football thing though from yesterday. I will
one of the
say.
routes. One of the kids ran a good route.
So
you saw?
he actually did.
Well,
The
Mac
kid
was
had
playing DB a little bit.
the kid had a heck of a catch on
really
it,
did.
honestly. I
It's
was
like the Edelman
standing
shoe catch type situation.
on the opposite side of the field from where Mac was throwing the football, and Phil Perry actually, I think he got it from Mac's marketing people, tweeted out the video of the throw yesterday. If you want to go check it out, Mac threw probably like a 60-yard dime to some kid, like some 14-year-old kid made like a hell of a grab on it too, and I was standing on the far end of the field, and that thing was whistling, like you could hear it coming towards us. And Mac looks good. Like he looks a little bit thicker, like he's packed on some muscle,
Good weight. Yeah.
and he looks like he's ready to go. I mean, when he said to me, he was like, ready to go, and let's ride, I think was the other thing. And then he's like, wait a
he said,
second,
"Let's
that's
ride."
that's
Yeah.
Russell
He
Wilson.
didn't
Wait,
want you
Evan
to
Lazard.
say that.
wait a
right.
second. And when he said, I'm ready, like let's go, let's get this going. Like there was some some
Well,
chutzpah
I-
in his voice.
I thought it was
Uh,
interesting what you said about it too. Is just like I forget how you put it, but you just you said he's very relaxed, and of course he should be. He's working with
Yeah.
a bunch of kids. This is what it's really all about. I felt even just in OTAs a little bit like he just seems a little bit more self-assured. I think the last
Yeah.
couple, everyone expects the first year as a rookie, you're going to come in, your head's going to be spinning. Every question you get asked has to go through a filter of like, what am I going to say? Do I get in trouble here? But it seems like he's getting that down a little bit more, and is just, hopefully it translates to the field of like confidence and, being able to execute and those things. But just from what I saw, I like that kind of aspect of him too.
Yeah, so that was the big news yesterday.
Yeah.
big news.
The big
Big
news.
news, yeah.
That was about it. Other than like a bunch of Patriots making honorable mention of lists.
Yeah.
That was about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, forget that. But Tuesday we couldn't take phone calls because we had a little technical snafu. But everything's working again now. So 855-PATS-500 if you want to call the show. 855-PATS-500. Web radio at patriots.com if you want to email it. So we'll get to those. Any other? Nothing new on the Hopkins thing. It's the same.
All quiet. I did catch Hopkins was on Family Feud the other night. It was like an old one. It was from like 2017. But I was like, hey, there he is. But no.
Did he win?
No, I think they lost. It was like NFL legends versus like current NFL players. So we gotta love Family Feud, right? Everybody likes Family
Oh,
Feud.
yeah.
Good
Definitely.
laugh, a little bit.
I love playing Family Feud while watching Family Feud. It's one of my
You
favorite.
have like
things.
an actual Family Feud during Family Feud.
I feel like I would do really well
Yeah.
on Family Feud.
I do
don't
too.
know. Like, I
do
feel
too.
like
I've always
Why?
thought
Because your
that.
family is good, or like that's a weird show to feel confident in. Like if you
No,
feel
no,
so great
'cause
about,
I'm
why don't you
good
go on
at
Jeopardy?
Like especially when they like do it at the end, like the what's it called when they have to do the
Speed
5
round.
things
Yeah, yeah.
and like you win the money. I feel like I would be really good at that.
Sometimes they're ridiculous. One of the questions on that though was, what's the average amount of times a man would be in a fist fight over the course of his life? And so, who answered the first one? The first guy that answered said 15.
Oh my God.
Pedro. It was Pedro. Pedro
15
Martinez.
minutes?
Pedro Martinez.
Pedro
This was the one before the football. This was the baseball one. And they said, "What's
Is this
it?
before or
number of
after
fo-
we threw Don's?
Right, I was
I
about to
know, I
say
know.
that.
Right,
That's what I
that-
said,
that
but
didn't take
but it
15
did make me
minutes.
think of like what's a reasonable. But of course, Pedro Martinez, like I'm sure like he did get in a lot of fights like growing up. He's not your average guy, but it's just what's tough about those questions. Like you asked 100 studio audience members from Family Feud what their perspective of a fist fight is, and then you ask Pedro Martinez, who like is a professional athlete. But I don't know. I was gonna say 3. I thought 3.
What's
would
your
be
average?
reasonable.
I would say
Dude,
two.
You
how
played
many fist
hockey.
fights
What's
have
your
you been in?
average?
3.
Well, Phil, getting into a fight in hockey, I
3.
feel like
No,
is
that
different.
doesn't count. That
Yeah.
3
doesn't count.
minutes punching is a long time.
Well, just number of fist fights.
Yeah, pure
Oh,
number.
number
total?
of
Like,
So
no,
what's
length of.
considered a fist fight though? Like if one person throws a punch, is that now a fist fight? or-
I think you gotta. You're going in. You're going in with
Yeah.
the fists out. I don't think I've ever technically been. Hockey. There's been a couple, but not like a real.
Do you have siblings?
No,
Oh, you
fight.
have sisters.
Yeah.
That's
So
different.
I don't hit
What are
down.
you trying to say?
I'm not dropping hands on my sissies. Come on.
They
Well,
hit you.
My brother
Oh, they hit
definitely.
No, I had psychological warfare for my sisters. It was not about physical stuff. But anyway, that's So I would say though the quarterback thing, that quarterback show's coming out. People are starting to talk about that a little bit with Patrick Mahomes.
I saw some of the trailers.
Yeah.
I saw some people have already watched it and like reviewed it and stuff, and I guess the opening scene is like Peyton Manning describing what a quarterback is, like on like the simple basic like intro to football level.
Oh.
Like the quarterback's the one that
To me,
that
takes
throws the
the
football.
shot.
To me,
Like-
Set in the scene.
To me,
Yeah.
it reminds me of like in school. You have a 1,000-word essay, and you just draw it out. Like every sentence is this run-on sentence. That's what I feel this thing is. Like Marcus Mariota, Kirk Cousins. I'm interested in Mahomes, but you're not going to see much else than what you've already seen on NFL films. I don't think.
I want to get a behind-the-scenes look at Brittany Mahomes and see maybe a
Oh.
little bit what because we see what she does on social
I
media,
have
but
heard-
when
Isn't her
she's on the
brother,
show,
or isn't his brother?
I don't think
wrapped
that's
up
going to
in
be
some
I don't think his
situations?
brother's in it. I have heard though
If
from
he
some
was,
people
they
that
needed
got
to
sneak
scrub
peeks
that all.
that Brittany Mahomes comes off pretty well.
yeah.
In it, which I'm sure is editing and all that.
Of course
kind
it
of
is.
stuff.
it
They
is.
have
Yeah.
probably approved.
If
They
it-
had to approve
Did they have
things.
like a voice body double for her.
I'm just
dubbed her.
that's all I'm saying is that from the people that have seen it weeks ago, the sneak peek folks, I guess that she does some much needed PR on her image in this documentary.
I mean, that's what I would expect, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to see how it came off when she actually was.
I mean, if I'm Patrick, I'm not letting her on unless she comes off good.
Oh yeah,
Make her
Right.
look good, or you're not getting her.
raise the decibel
You know?
or voice a little bit. The Jets are going to be on Hard Knocks. I guess that's
That's
official.
news. That's the second time they've been on Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
last time
The
was
Rex
with
Ryan
Rex
one.
Ryan.
Oh.
Probably the
Rex,
best one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go get a snack.
Yeah, let's go get it.
They dropped
Iconic.
today.
So
Oh,
iconic.
boy, they came off like a bunch of hardos, huh?
What year was that? Was that 10 or 9?
I
Was it
want to
9?
say. Yeah, because Revis was on. Remember, Revis's holdout.
Yeah, and they
Was
had
the
Cromartie. That was
Yeah.
the big thing with
Yeah,
all
with
his
the kids.
Yeah.
That was peak Hard Knocks. That was Hard Knocks. At its
Could've
All
peak.
the
name all his
Rex feet
kids.
stuff,
Yeah,
like all
oh.
the,
Oh,
the
yeah,
kids.
it was. You can say what you want about Rex Ryan, but his Hard Knock season is the best one by far.
It was my favorite time of the Jets as a Patriots fan, was just
Yeah.
having him, there and just all the hype that he stirred up. I miss
He
that.
really did. He
So much bulletin
He made
board
you
stuff.
anxious. Like, you didn't want to lose to this guy,
Right. It makes you mad, like the
Yeah.
kiss the rings thing
Yeah.
right out of the gate, and then the calling season ticket
Calling
holders.
season ticket
and-
holders. I'm telling you, that affected us. I remember that game like it was yesterday. He puts the call out to all the season ticket holders. We need you to be loud, 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 loud. It's like, okay, we show up with these grease boards because, we're not going to
We're
be
worried.
talking. We're going to do it silently. It affected them. It
Yeah.
changed the way they approached the game, and we lost that game.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you talk about what you want as a new franchise, especially where the Jets were at that particular moment, where you knew you had a good defense, but they brought Mark Sanchez in, rookie quarterback. We all know what that's like. But, just the fact that they then actually lost to them, like you watch them on Hard Knocks and you're like, "Ugh, these buffoons. Like,
Yeah, and
the Patriots
And,
had no
and the
problem.
ultimate loss is, you go into the divisional playoff game and you get your butts kicked by them after having just kicked their butts
45-3
in the regular season.
Obviously, like taking out Super Bowl losses, that was one of the ones that stings the most. That Patriots lost to the Jets in the playoffs.
I still
Yeah,
remember
and-
like the AIM away message I posted after that game.
And Rex Ryan, I
Bad
think,
one.
I don't know if it was Rex Ryan or one of the players on defense, basically came out and said, our game plan on defense was to funnel everything into the middle and just cover that middle, and it worked.
I
Bart
don't-
Scott probably.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
We
think
talked a
that
lot
was
of
an
smack.
example, of just when the game kind of unfolds a certain way, and you kept waiting for Brady to get on track. But I think they had a long drive that David Harris, I think, picked a pass off and went the other way, and then they almost had a touchdown with Algie Crumpler, but he dropped one, and it was like, it kind of snowballs on you. You realize like, man, we better get going here. This is not going our way, and it was one of those rare. I still feel like they did kind of make a push, but it was a little too
It
late.
was too late. They scored to make it a one-score game.
But it was not
really
like,
late.
oh, the door
No.
is open. It was
No.
kind of a
Yeah.
garbage time.
I remember going into that feeling pretty confident, and man,
But that was 2010. I think did
Yep.
the Packers win the Super Bowl that season? That's not one of the Super Bowls that people lament. And even though that was a Brady MVP season, I think everybody looks at it and says defense was not complementary.
Yeah, but in the
to what they
regular
had on
season,
offense.
they were a
But he was
wagon
unstoppable,
offensively.
right? It just didn't
Yeah.
matter, and they'd get so many interceptions
Yeah.
that it just offset how bad they were on defense. But I
Yeah,
mean, some of
that
the
was
names and faces that they had on the back end were.
Because I just remember, like the Baltimore loss to Ray Rice, and like Welker
Cool.
tore his ACL in Week 17,
yeah.
and that kind of felt like, they're probably not going to go on a run without Welker.
That game
Like,
was over in the first quarter.
right.
Oh my gosh.
First play.
You couldn't believe it. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like bang, bang, bang.
Got
Yeah.
steamrolled.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and then Terrell Suggs just like absolutely cleaned his clock, or was it Ray Lewis? One of the two.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was like 20 to
Yeah.
nothing before you even
That
knew
one
what going
was
on.
bad, and then obviously like Brady's first playoff loss against the Broncos was.
Yep.
I mean, as a kid, like I had never seen him lose a
Right.
playoff game yet, so I like that was shocking. But losing to the Jets when you had a team that probably should have gone on a Super Bowl type run
Yeah.
in the divisional round, when you just like Fred said, you just blew their doors off. Like around Thanksgiving, it was like 45-3 or.
I got to give Mark Sanchez some respect on that game too, because he played awesome. He played out of his mind. Like I know it is how
Yeah.
his career went, but for that one game, he was lights out, and that was
Yeah,
exactly
I
what they
do
did.
think that we make fun of Rex Ryan. He's kind of a clown, and that's kind of his shtick. But I think as a head coach, he was a good motivator. I think guys wanted to play for him, and I think he got guys ready to go. And I think he knew his defense. I think he knew he was a good defensive coordinator.
I mean,
his blood.
I mean, was that Jets little thing? That was the closest anybody got in the AFC to actually threatening the Patriots over the 20. I mean, they beat them in 09 and 10, and in the playoffs in 10. I mean, it's not a lot.
No, you were worried there. You were like, this could be a rivalry.
Right?
We could be, seeing this again. And then he goes to Buffalo, and he tried to do it there, but,
There were some overtime games, too, I think,
Yeah.
against the Jets near the end. I mean, the butt fumble happened, too.
Was that still Rex Ryan when they had Gito and he was in overtime?
That's where I get gray about where did he leave? And then Todd
I guess, like,
Bowles came in
hindsight, you kind of saw him flaming out coming just because of how much of a personality he was. Like, how long could that really go on in a locker room?
Well, that's what happened in Buffalo. I think that team was undisciplined, and they would make some really bad mistakes. And I think the trickle down from the head coach, I think it was just they were just too,
Well, those two Patriots games, kind of sum up the experience where it's like on one hand they came in here and got their doors blown off, but yet they were still able to turn it around, forget about it, and execute a perfect game plan. That was Welker getting benched too, right? Early on, Welker got benched for the foot comment.
Foot comments,
That was just funny.
So now they have Aaron Rodgers, and they'll be on Hard Knocks. So we'll see.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers must see TV with him. I mean, that's.
I probably won't watch it.
Oh man, I think I have to.
You won't watch it?
I think I have to.
Hard Knocks to me has gone really far downhill. I think the main reason being that teams are so paranoid that something is going to get out there that's going to be a competitive disadvantage, that now it's just completely stripped down to the bones.
That's the stuff I would live for, was, when you'd get the camera like this one up here, in the room, and you'd see kind of the wide angle, and the coach would have to cut somebody, or the coaches were talking about their position groups and what they were getting out of guys. And I love that stuff, but now you get more of like, meanwhile at home, this is what's going on, and you're following the families, like what they're doing during camp, and not.
There was a few years ago, I think it was J.J. Watt said that he picked up like a snap count cadence by watching Hard Knocks, and ever since that happened, it's been watered down completely from a football.
Well, that's why
standpoint.
Tommy Curran said, if the Patriots were to not make the playoffs this year, that they could be forced to
candidates for
hard. I mean, how much would Bill Belichick try to resist that?
What would that even?
That would be the year he resigned.
What would that even look like?
I mean, and I mean, it's fascinating. We know what it's like here. Having to work with them. I mean, what kind of freedom do NFL Films producers have to just? We have to produce a show.
They have nothing.
We're on a schedule.
Meanwhile, the
They'd have to
Patriots
send it
social
all for
media
approvals.
team.
Yeah,
They'd
well,
be
it's like
talking to us,
the show has to air Wednesday night, and they need to know. So I mean, it would be really dicey. It would be really dicey with how they like to run things here.
I don't think
producing a TV show like that.
I don't think HBO or Max. It's not HBO anymore, right? It's Max. I don't think they want any part of the Patriots. Like, I know that from a numbers perspective, that might break the bank to have Bill Belichick on Hard Knocks, but at the same time, like, we know, like, you can find out an hour before practice that something else is going on that you don't normally think would happen on that day or something like that, and just the logistical nightmare, and they would do it on purpose. We know that.
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean, I've worked in like two industries, and I think that they're the most logistical nightmare industries. I mean, between football and production, like there are just two things that can drag on forever. You never know exactly where you're coming or going.
Well, you know how like some teams have that guy that keeps the coach from running on the field, like the keep back
hold
guy.
back guy.
They would have the stand in front of the camera guy. So they would have a guy whose back would be to the camera the whole time.
Oh man, just get some big former offensive lineman, just let him kind of like park it. Right in front of
our
the
security guys.
The security guys, Brian and stuff, just like, oh nope, you can't go cross that line. Nope, you can't go over there.
Oh my gosh.
The whole Hard Knocks would be like 3 angles.
It would
the
all
same
just be
camera
warm-ups.
angle.
It would all be warm-ups and stretching.
It would turn into like the Boyd the Dog show. That would be the only interesting thing.
I figured they'd be following us around. Like,
That's what it would be.
like,
the Hard Knocks of the social team trying to deal with football
right,
ups.
how do you guys do this?
Like, yeah, same. Yeah, we get it.
Oh, Brees Hall.
Neil Perry dressed up like a cowboy.
So that's a real thing. He really.
Oh, yeah.
Him of all people wanted to
No,
do
he
that.
was serious.
I need to see it.
He was like, when we travel, we should dress up.
Yeah, but like, okay, you travel and dress up for Dallas, but like, what about normal?
Well,
games
Miami
and
was
normal
all white.
Yeah, all white linen,
Yeah,
the Cuban chain. I get that.
think
I
he
like
had
that. But
Denver was going to kind of be Cowboys.
Vegas,
too.
you're gonna dress like Elvis's.
Oh my
Not
god.
all said.
Or Pirates.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny coming from Neil of all people because
How do we dress in New York?
Right, he's a secret cosplay guy.
Well, and the way this all started too was like said he was going on vacation in Montana, and I was
Yeah.
like, "So you're gonna dress up like a cowboy?" And he's like, "Well," and you could, and I'm like, "There's something here."
Yeah.
Like he's kind of hesitated for a second. He's like, "Well, I got the hats, but I'm trying to get all the guys to wear it." And then I started doing your thing where I was like, "What about like chaps?
You
Like,
gonna
yeah,
wear
like
chaps?
Is he on a
I'm like-
bachelor party?
No, I think
No.
it's just cowboy dudes.
Why does he want his friends to dress up on a trip?
I'm telling you,
It's his own PTO,
there's
Alex.
This
We're
other
not allowed to
side of
ask,
him
so
that
yeah.
we don't know.
this
I'm like, will there be a leather vest with nothing underneath it?
Right.
With some tassels.
You're gonna be wearing
That's
chaps
the
with like a
look.
bikini, just bikini briefs or something.
I actually
chaps and a thong.
Oh,
I would sit next to Neil quite a bit on our trips, and traveling with Neil is a time.
He's candy.
It's
loves candy.
He comes out of his shell.
He
for sure.
He is thriving. Neil on the road is peak Neil. Like that. That's
He's
him
going to develop
thriving.
into a no socks character for the show, where everyone kind of knows we talk about one guy. They don't know exactly who he is, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
All
It'll
right.
be funny. We'll see what he comes back. What he comes back looking like.
Oh boy.
Hopefully, he comes back alive.
Anyway, all right.
We need
Paul
him,
too.
so-
Is Paul on a? Paul texted
Oh,
me
yeah,
last
Paul.
weekend from a bachelor party. I'm like, why are you on a bachelor party?
Fetty Wap came on or something.
Yeah,
and
he had to. He was.
You were the first person he thought of?
Everyone was very impressed with his rapping skills. He had to tell me.
Oh boy.
It's like, what are you doing?
A lot of Miller Lights are flowing.
A lot of Diet Millers.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah. All right, 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket Hotline. Web radio at patriots.com is the email address. There is some NFL news with Dan Snyder. That thing's not done yet.
Oh, it sounds like what?
Yeah,
John
John
Gruden's going to
Gruden.
go nuclear on the whole situation
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So that situation, they said it could hold up the actual sale
Of the
to
team.
this guy. Could complicate it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, see what John Gruden's got up his sleeve. I'm sure.
So that's good. That was another Seth Wickersham, Dan Venata thing. And then I saw on Twitter today Dan Venata kind of, taking shots at Pro Football Talk
Oh, really?
about using sources and
Pro Football Talk's been annoying me generally just because it feels like he goes through and he just digs up stuff from the offseason about the Patriots and then posts it as if it's new information. And he's done it a couple times the last 2 weekends where I'm like, why
And then
why
it
are
all
we
gets re-aggregated.
clicks.
and-
Right.
He had a headline about Damian Harris at a press conference in Buffalo, and Damian Harris said that it was rocky from the start in New England. But if you listen to the full quote, he
Yeah.
was talking about injuries.
Yeah.
That he dealt with a ton of injuries with the Patriots, and so
Totally.
it was. He had said
I
it
was misled the same way.
Yeah.
It said like, oh gosh, what is he gonna say some bad stuff? No, he just was saying that he never really got on track here and that he was hurt a lot.
Right. It had nothing to do with
That's so
the
annoying and
organization or with
irresponsible, like-
Belichick or anything like that.
Well, then the
Yeah.
other one we were talking about, which came up twice today, was the Volin thing, and,
Yeah.
and then somebody like what's his name, the fake person who writes
Dov.
for Bro-Bible's guy, Dov. So he writes it like Belichick's friends are worried
So
that
that
he
was
might be in the
was
hot
a
seat.
line in Volan's thing. 'cause
Nothing
I
like it.
read Volan's column to see what the heck this was all about, and there is like a throwaway line after a long paragraph where he claims that Belichick's people close to Belichick are worried about Belichick's long-term job security, and I'm just thinking to myself, friends of who is friends with Bill Belichick that's gonna go and pick, like, you think Nick Saban's picking up a phone and calling Ben Volan?
I mean, it's Jimmy Johnson, right? It's
Right.
Nick Saban. It's Tom LaRussa.
Tony LaRussa.
Tony
yeah.
La
Yep.
Russa.
Matt Patricia.
Yeah, I mean, like who?
His buddies?
Who would these people be? Mike
Bruce
Lombardi.
Cassidy.
Yeah.
Mike Lombardi could be one.
But it's
you know?
also like there's a difference, and this is the part that I think you get into the weeds a little bit. There's a difference between Mike Lombardi from a media perspective
He's
looking
giving
in
an
and-
opinion.
and giving
And
an
a football
opinion,
guy.
and then actually saying that I talked to Bill and Bill
Right.
is
it's
on the
his
hot
next
seat.
door
Like,
neighbor and wherever he lives. I don't know.
July.
It's
The clicks are hard to come by
I
in
know.
July.
I just that it's frustrating when things are you feel like kind of being manufactured a little bit, specifically about the Patriots. Like we got enough going on. Like, do we really need to like rehash every negative story from the offseason?
One thing I think is, what about this whole thing going on the Twitter with Asante Samuel
that's
and
fun.
Oh,
Darrell
let's talk about
Revis?
that.
You know,
Oh my God.
that is something.
What do you do on Asante Samuel? Like, I mean, it takes real talent
Why
to
did he
come
want
off
the
like a total
smoke?
d-bag on Twitter. Generally, like,
Yeah.
just like, why do you use Twitter just to go and like talk crap about people? Like,
And
he's
you can
getting what he
make
deserves.
and you can like make the comment about the New York media and maybe inflating people's careers without
without
making
taking a
personal
dump on
attacks.
Revis and Sauce Gardner.
Darrell Revis is, other than Deion Sanders, he might be one of the best, cover corners ever. I mean, he was uncanny the way he could stick with guys.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
think that Darrell Revis and Sauce are in two very different categories here.
Right.
So if his comment
From
was
Asante, you mean?
if his comment was to bring Revis into it, then completely ridiculous. What he said about Sauce has some merit. Like, I'm just gonna be honest, and I know that that's gonna come off as like a Patriots honk take, but like,
Well, he hasn't done much yet.
It's 1 year.
Yeah.
It's 1 year in a really cornerback friendly system. Like, let's give it some time and see. I think Sauce is going to be a really good player for a long time, but I do think that the hype is a little bit like out of control. I think this all started from Jeremy Fowler's positional rankings thing that had Sauce as like the number 2 corner in football already. And I think Patrick Surtain was number 1 and Sauce was number 2. And so Samuel was just kind of saying, like, there's 1 year and a really good defense. Like let's some of these other guys that have been around the block a few times that have been doing this for 4, 5, 6 years. Like, those guys aren't as good as a second-year corner. Like, I call BS.
But Revis went right at him for
I didn't know if
07.
that. I didn't know if that reply was real, but I mean, that's the dance that Asante Samuel does on Twitter. He comes out and he attacks Bill, and then a bunch of Patriot fans come after him with screenshots of Super Bowl 42 and the ball going off his hands.
But
and
this
like,
wasn't Patriots fan. This
no,
was
it's not, at
Darrell
first I thought it
Revis.
was fake, but I guess Revis.
Revis ended up taking it down, I think. But I mean, it's funny how like you think other players on other teams don't pay attention to those things that are like lore in Patriots Nation, but like other players know that he had a chance to end that Super Bowl and seal the perfect season. He didn't do it.
I would love to. I wish I could hear Paul's what his kind of opinion of Samuel was, just as he developed here. I mean, he was
Paul
always
liked
a
him.
ball. Yeah,
Paul liked him.
He's a ball hawk. I mean, he just made plays on. I mean, it's a different defense now what they play. Like, I don't think he'd be the same guy here that he was then, but I don't think there's any arguing that the guy had an innate sense of
He was
when
good.
to break
and
on the
he
ball.
was a good player, but he's not a Hall of Famer, and he's not one of the greatest cornerbacks ever.
he's not gonna
I'm
man-
very conflicted on Asante Samuel's whole persona, because in this instance, Revis was going to bat for a Jet. It had nothing to do with the Patriots. It became about the Patriots when they brought up the 07 Super Bowl, but it wasn't. I get why Patriots fans are like, get him Revis, because Asante Samuel takes his shots at Belichick all the time, which is totally fair. But Revis was defending a Jet. Like, he was Team Jets on this one. So I kind of feel a little bit like, I don't know if this is really a win for Patriots fans that Revis was like giving Asante Samuel the business, but I feel like I'm conflicted with Asante as a player too, because I loved watching him play, and he was a really, really good corner. But now post career, obviously he's turned into kind of a clown.
Sour
so,
grapes, just sour grapes all the time. Like, and his son's pretty good, right? I mean, he got drafted last year.
Yeah, and I don't blame like the 07 Super Bowl. Like, obviously he had the pick go through his hands that could have ended the game, but a million things could have changed in that game that the Patriots would have won. So it's
so funny, like, Evan, because I mean, that game cut me like no game before it, and yet I still never really like was lamenting Asante Samuel's drop. Like, it wasn't like, oh right, like, I don't know. It looked
was
like a
more
tough play
so
to
not
me.
bringing down Eli when you had that
But
chance.
when you hear that
Yeah.
name, what did you think of?
What do you mean?
When
With-
you hear Sante's name, like,
Oh,
because that's
no,
what my
I-
head
I
goes
thi- well,
to.
I-
Not that play. Not for me.
More so that is the night before the Super Bowl, walking around like, I'm going to be a free agent. I'm going to get my money. And it's like, it's the night before the Super Bowl. Can we just wait a couple days before you start talking about being a free agent? You know?
I think
Seems like
more.
there's an ego thing there, I would say.
I think more about the 06 AFC Championship when he had a pick six before halftime that was like, oh my gosh, we're going to knock the Colts off in Indy. Like, that at halftime you thought you were sailing. I don't know. Just, you watch the game and certain things stick with you, certain things don't. I mean, there's a famous story out there that Rodney Harrison has told that they were, that they had a zero blitz on and that they were trying to get out of it. And Junior Seau was like, run it. And, Ellis Hobbs was stuck on an island against,
Right.
a giant receiver that he couldn't cover, and that was that. But there's plenty of things to lament on that game. I don't for whatever reason that wasn't one
that's the thing is like it was one of many things that went very wrong in that
scored,
game.
What 13 points? I mean,
right.
It was
it was an easy catch. In hindsight, we can all you can sit here on the radio and not on the football field with 22 other large humans and say it was an easy catch. But when you watch it back, he's clearly worried about getting his feet in bounds first. So he's trying to get his feet in bounds, and then he looks up to catch the football. And by the time he looked up to catch the football, it was already on him. So he had to really try to just kind of throw his hands at it and hope he picked it off. But it's he gets what he deserves on Twitter, I suppose.
mean, it's just every single time. Here it comes.
Oh, my God. All right. 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket hotline. Webradio@patriots.com is the email. Plenty to talk about, even though it's the dog days. Let's go to the phones. We'll start with Jim in Virginia. What's up, Jim?
Hey, good afternoon, Fred.
Hello.
Kind of ask your opinion. The Patriots have got the cap space, and D-Hop is out there. Wouldn't it benefit the Patriots by saying, yeah, we need to get a number one just to see, it's a one-year deal, and to see what Mac Jones can actually do.
You don't have to go any further, Jim. Yes, the answer is yes. They should get him. They should get him, and they should pay. And even if it's a little bit more than Bill's comfortable with, that's the market. Get him. And let's see, for so many reasons, including the one you mentioned, let's see what Matt can do with, a full arsenal.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I have one other thing I wanted to ask you. I said, the guys to discuss maybe is, I think the defenses in all the AFC teams are really, really good. And I think, it's going to be a cannibalism of the AFC East. And nobody is guaranteed to be number one here. That these teams are all going to get their fair share of losses. Is that a fair statement?
You mean by beating each other?
Yeah.
It could happen. Yeah, absolutely.
Defensively.
Yeah.
Defensively, they're so good.
Yeah.
All Miami's got a great defense. The Jets have got a great defense, and Buffalo is still a good defense.
Yeah.
And Patriots, we expect them to be really good defense this year. I think these defenses are going to beat up on each other and cause these teams to not be guaranteed anything.
You could be right.
I mean, I'd connect it. I think Tua Tagovailoa's health is a big part of that whole equation because I think they're a completely different team whether he's in there or he's not in there. It goes from being a contender to not. And I as much as I like these defenses, I'm interested to see, the new defensive coordinator in Miami, but blanking on his
Vic
name.
Fangio.
Everyone loves him, so that's an interesting kind of new twist. So I don't know, but it's still an offensive-driven league, and that's what to me, it's just going to boil down to it's more about how does Aaron Rodgers mesh into that offense with the pieces that were existing and the pieces that he brought with him. Can Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs continue to kind of keep things rolling the way they have? How does the kid that they drafted fit into that situation up there? Does that give them a new element? But I think the defenses are fine. But I think to me, it's about the offenses and who's healthy and who's clicking, and that's what's going to.
Well, when you have a division of good defenses, the best offense will have the advantage, and who's got, who can, rise above, these good defenses.
Right. Well, the Jets, the Jets offense had scored 3 points here last year, and that game was decided on the punt return.
Yeah.
Are they going to just put up 3 points with Aaron Rodgers anymore? Or
no.
And for as much as we all, respect the Patriots defense and think that they had a good year last year, they still haven't beaten Tua. They, really have struggled with Josh Allen. No matter how much they've spun the dial on him, they just can't really seem to, solve him consistently or get that last stop. So, yeah, we'll see.
Good call, Jim. Some good observations. I'm on record. I've already said it. I think the Patriots will have a top 5 defense this year. And I think that's saying a lot this year because they're going to be playing a lot of good quarterbacks. They're going to be playing Mahomes, and they're going to be playing Rodgers, and, obviously Josh Allen twice, Rodgers twice. So to have a top 5 defense this year will be quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, I've really discovered Next Gen Stats, their portal. They have a whole film thing you can sort. It's amazing. So I've just kind of been doing some defensive jump-in review as I want to do sometimes. But I really have questions with McCourty out. And not just his. I mean, and I think unfortunately he was kind of dipping a little bit last year. I think I don't think that his play was staying at the level it had been, and I wonder about the communication on the back end, everybody being on the same page. And just that range, I don't think any of their guys really have that range.
How good will Christian Gonzalez be in his first year? That, to me, answers a lot of questions.
Well, what's he ready for? He's 21 years old. I mean, and he's no question an amazing athlete. But
is he a good enough athlete to just put him on the other team's best player?
I don't think so. I mean,
I
I'm
think
not out
you're
of the
going to get
gate.
a lot
I mean,
of him on the number 2 with the coverage tilted to the number 1.
But even if he can do that successfully, that helps. That's something that they weren't really able to do last year.
His athleticism will buy him some time.
So what I'm getting at is last year when you couldn't do something like that, a McCourty makes so much more difference because he's telling everyone where to go, because you really have to scheme it up.
Yeah.
If you have that one guy that can take out one player, whether it's the 1 or the 2, that okay, now it's less of a scheme. It's more you can play a little bit more man to man, and maybe the loss of McCourty isn't that bad if Gonzalez is that good.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just think that with McCourty, you mentioned the range. I'm curious to see schematically if they do play a little bit more 2 high shell this year than they have in the past, because it makes sense. Like they have 2 guys in Duggar and Phillips, and even if you want to throw Jabril Peppers in there, that aren't really middle of the field center fielders. Like if you have them playing just the half field or even just like a quarter of the field, it just makes it a lot easier to mitigate that a little bit. But we saw it in the spring. They're going to want to mix and match, and they're going to want to spin the dial, and the sort of unpredictability is what they're going to hang their hat on. Versus with McCourty, it's always 1 high with McCourty in the middle of the field, and you kind of knew what was coming.
But I think that's a little bit of a double-edged sword in that, it's not as simple as we all want it to be. Where all right, Christian Gonzalez will be covering A.J. Brown today for the duration of the game.
Yeah.
Like it's not how they're going to do it. But from a simplicity standpoint, that would be great. Like then free safety doesn't really matter. You're on that guy. You're on that guy. Where they do spin the dial so much, where you do have a rookie kind of working in, where you don't have that presence who's kind of been there and seen it all, and certainly Jonathan Jones is as close as you can get to McCourty with that. But I still have memories of 2012, and it was bombs away on them, and they played against Seattle, and I was up there in Seattle watching that game where it was like they got a bunch of strong safeties right now, and
that's the you mad bro game.
You mad bro game. So look, it's all you can work around everything, and they'll spin the dial, and they'll be able to cover up some of their weaknesses. But I just I think overall, as you start to look at, all right, what are we really working with here on defense? Who's really going to get out there and play and contribute? Keon White, I think, is just such a question mark right now with, where's he going to end up? What's going to happen with Lawrence Guy? How does Keon White fit into this whole defensive situation? Is he going to – because, I could make an argument, say he's the next Lawrence Guy. Get rid of Lawrence. Lawrence Guy, they want more – all right, Keon White's going to be, primarily a hand-down defensive end. But, the way that they've been working him, it seems like they have higher hopes for him. So, there are some new elements to play with. There's a lot of core still to stick with.
There's a lot of – potential.
Yeah,
there's a lot of potential, but
how do they get over that edge? How do they get over the edge against the good teams? And and I would qualify the Jets as a good team.
So
now.
would you, in the past we've called the Patriots defense in many seasons, bend but don't break. Do you think you'll see more of that this year or less of that this year, and they'll be more aggressive?
Well, I just think that's a general philosophy that they have. Of the first thing is that we can't get beat deep. Like you can't give up big plays, and we'll work back from there. And you're going to maybe give up some sub 20-yard plays if you can tackle well, which they usually do. Great, but I don't know. I don't really get that vibe as much. I feel like the bend don't break thing was more of a mid 2010s kind of Matt Patricia thing, where once you got Flores came in, they started getting real aggressive with blitzing and not just kind of. All right, we're going to rush. They certainly rush 3 a lot. They're certainly not always on the aggressive end, but when they do get aggressive, I think they get pretty aggressive and they spin the dial. And, I think that's more of the characteristic of the Patriots defense now is more the multiplicity that they have between their safeties and their cornerbacks. And, you get a few new guys in, Marde Mapu. How does that change it? What does it look like?
The aggressiveness of their defense to me is how Bill feels about the corners. Like every single year you go year to year with their blitz rates and like their pressure packages and how exotic they get. It all depends on if he feels like the corners can hold up.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, then they're going to sag off. And like last year down the stretch in a lot of those games when they started getting banged up at corner and they didn't really have that Stephon Gilmore, that Ty Law, they played a lot of soft zone. And they played a lot of soft coverage and just beat us by, you're going to march down the field and we're going to bank on the 11th play of the drive. Like you'll make a fatal error with a turnover, get pushed out of field goal range. Like something will go wrong for you in this series of plays. When they've been truly aggressive is when they've had Stephon Gilmore and have recognized, okay, we can blitz man here because we know we have the number one corner that can play man-to-man against an A.J. Brown, that can play man-to-man against a Tyreek Hill. Are they going to be able to do that this year? I don't know if Christian Gonzalez is quite ready for the big time in that respect yet. Maybe he will be. I hope he will be. But I think that their defense schematically is going to look a lot like it has the last couple of years, where first and second down is kind of like a manage it down, and then third down they get a little bit more aggressive, but you're still thinking about the big play and trying to make teams march on you, which honestly is the whole league. Like that's not a Patriot thing anymore. Like the entire league plays the same defense. It's kind of boring. Like the entire league plays zone, a lot more zone now. They are all playing more too high coverages, too high shells, because these offenses are just so darn explosive and the quarterbacks are so good that the only thing that teams want now is like, you have to go 15 plays on us. Like, we're not going to give it up in 4. Like, you have to go the 10, 12, 13 play drives. And that's every single DC under the sun now is like,
a lot of Fangio,
march
too.
on
Wasn't
it.
he kind of leading the way with that? And,
So Fangio
Chargers
plays,
guy.
a quarter-based system, like 4 deep across the deep part of the field, and then everything sort of builds off of the 4 deep structure. But, the caller mentioned Miami, and like throughout my entire lifetime with Miami, they've always had pretty decent roster talent, but they've never been able to actually have it mean anything. And the Fangio hire does worry me a little bit because that defense does have a ton of talent. It has had a lot of talent even before they got Jalen Ramsey, and they just haven't been coordinated well. And I know Brian Flores is a good coordinator, but he's aggressive, and that means that sometimes it's not going to go your way when you're sending 6 guys at the quarterback all the time. And then last year they were not well coordinated defense. So Fangio will have a system. He'll have game plans. Like he'll have that buttoned up, that the talent on the roster should be able to do pretty well.
Let's go back to the Ace Ticket Hotline. Todd's in North Carolina. Hey, Todd.
Hey, guys. Just a quick question for Matt. Did it work?
It worked.
Hey, thanks for lunch, Todd.
Oh, thanks for you bought lunch today. Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
Yeah, we got the caviar.
Yeah.
I hope you did.
The pizza time caviar.
Yeah.
My big question is, if thinking about things, do the Patriots maybe already have this all planned out? Are they feeling confident in what they can do already? That's just it. The fact that they haven't made a move kind of makes me wonder if they're like, we got what we got, let's just use it.
Well, reports are that there's an offer on the table. I know. So if Hopkins wanted to, he could sign it and he could be a Patriot. Obviously, the offer isn't one that he can't refuse. That's the issue that's frustrating Patriots fans is why not just get aggressive and,
What if Hopkins really doesn't want to come here?
I think it's possible. I mean, I think
he just doesn't want to say it because he likes Bill Belichick.
He's waiting to see what else pops up.
I think I look at this scenario as the Patriots are a fallback plan and nothing more.
Yeah,
like
safety school.
If nobody else emerges, then like New England's a fine option for me. I'll go there. If nothing else emerges, but the team that I continue to look out for is Kansas City. Like if they can get that Chris Jones contract extension done and free up some cap space and give him like a 1-year incentive laden deal to go play with Mahomes. They don't have really that true number 2 outside of Kelsey right now. Like they could use it. And I think that if you're Hopkins, like that's the team that you're hoping is going to free up the wiggle room to be able to come and get you. I don't think Buffalo is really a true threat, but I think Kansas City is a team that's lurking to try to free up the money. And I think if you're Hopkins, you bring it into camp, you go a little bit with it, and
See,
if come mid-August nobody else is biting, then you make a decision between the Patriots and the Titans.
Playing off of that, Andy Hart did a list of five stars going into this year and the 5 stars you need at the end of the year for this team to have been successful. And one of his stars was Hopkins. So it's pretty wishful thinking, I think, to throw that on. But that sounds like a good question for you guys. So I hope you'll answer it. I'll take it off the air.
All right.
Good lunch, guys.
Thanks. So basically, he's saying if they don't get Hopkins, they're not going to do
Right.
well.
I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree, but I think Mac would have to be on that list. I think he would have to be, coming out. He's got to play
gotta
crazy.
play well.
And probably Juju. You got to have a guy, and I think somebody has to emerge. And I think he's the best candidate.
Somebody's got to make up for that production you lost when Myers left.
I mean, as much as you've seen Kendrick Bourne doing pull-ups, I mean, that is intriguing, I got to admit. But I don't know.
Don't get Patriots fans started on Jerry Rice.
Let's go to Eldred in North Carolina. What's up, Eldred?
There it is.
Hey.
Hey, ladies, gentlemen, how y'all doing?
Good.
Hey.
I'm doing pretty good, too. I'm kind of optimistic, but
Good for you.
I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good.
I don't know why.
I want to thank Evan, and Paul, you two, Fred, for last Thursday, for being called out by this dude named Brian. Y'all sort of made my point for me, so I hope he was listening.
Okay.
I want to go in an I right, but I'm not going to go in a right like that. I'm just going to tell you, son, I'm ex-military. You come for me, I come for you, too.
All right.
But
yep.
if you look at our roster and everybody else's roster, top to bottom, is your roster better than the Jets? No. Dolphins? No. Bills? No. Cowboys? No. Only difference is you got a good head coach. And, yes, it was Tom Brady for those 20 years.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, right now,
player.
based on past performance, you're absolutely right. But we're all hoping, as Patriots fans, that Uche takes another step. Barmore takes another step.
Baltimore?
Keon White, emerges. Gonzalez. And if all these people do, okay, now all of a sudden you've got a good roster.
Yeah. You won't see it. You won't see it coming,
Yeah.
You got nobody on offense.
Yeah. Well,
you got nobody on offense.
Well, if Schuster plays well, and if Kaseki plays well, and if Mac Jones plays well, you're like, okay, now you've got a different opinion of the offense. But right now you're right. Based on past performance, it's not that good.
Yeah, I guess that's a great way to put it, because I hate this game. I hate the let's look at the roster on July 14th and make a declaration, because injuries happen, guys don't perform up to expectation, and that could happen here too. It's everywhere. So yeah, in the middle of July, when everybody's 100% healthy and on paper what everything looks like, the Patriots are the last place team in the AFC East, right? But I don't give it. Why do I care?
Right, but and so every year a bunch of new teams make the playoffs, right? Those teams are not usually preseason. That you say the same thing about them, but that's and it goes back to kind of the big point that I continue to hammer of just being the draft. It's when you do suddenly find these players that are going to emerge that you've drafted that are young players, you don't suddenly see it we know Keon White's going to be awesome. Keon White might just be awesome. That could maybe just happen. And you don't see it coming, but then all of a sudden, all right, now actually the Patriots have some talent. Last year when the Jets got, they've had a good couple of drafts with Garrett Williams and Sauce, and
that's my point.
You got to start to see those guys play. So I get your point, but for me, I want to get into the season and start to see some young new faces starting to play at a high level. That's when things are going to turn around, when the young guys start to emerge.
I also just think not to completely take the Patriots side in this, but I think a lot of people look at the top of the roster only when they think about these things, and the Patriots certainly do not have the top of the roster talent that some of these other teams do, even in their division. They just don't. They don't have Stephon Diggs. They don't have Josh Allen. They don't have Matt Milano. They don't have these all-pro players that Buffalo has, or the Jets have, or the Dolphins have. But the Patriots roster, 20 through 53. They still have that strong middle class. Now, I've talked about in the past that I don't think that wins you football games like it did when you had Tom Brady. But the middle class does count for something. That does,
especially when injuries happen.
Right. And the fact is that they might not have a lot of guys that are going to end up on Jeremy Fowler's position rankings.
Honorable mention.
But they might have a lot of guys that are better number 3 receivers than other teams' number 3 receiver or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned a guy like Marty Mapu. Like, what if his versatility is just perfect for the NFL, and like he does things that even better than he did in college. Like, those are the kind of things. Yeah, you need them to happen. You can't count on it, but if they do, now all of a sudden you're thinking a lot differently about this team.
Yeah, and I mean, then there's no direct route. I mean, Josh Allen, a couple of years, they didn't know what they had with him. Some guys do come in and they're amazing right off the bat, but
it took a while.
It takes some time. You
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Okay. I'm hoping for Hopkins, but I'm not. But there's a disgruntled wide receiver on Denver, and it's not Judy, Cortland Sutton. Would you put a third or second round and try to get him? And that's your number 1 outside receiver.
How much better
last year? I don't know.
How much better is he than Devontae Parker?
Yeah, I haven't heard much about him.
Speed wise, he's pretty good.
No, he's a good player. But I think Parker's he's an okay player, and I think Parker's an okay player. I don't know if that
one.
He's
better than Parker. He's younger, and I think he's better. He's younger and he's better.
Yeah, maybe. But is he like in a totally different tier than Devontae? He's definitely younger. I'll give you that. But is he?
Yeah, but he's not. He's a down the field guy too. He can run all the routes. He got the routes, but he also got speed, and he also can run downfield. Somebody that might back the defense up a little bit. You know what I mean?
I just feel like with guys like Cortland Sutton, how many of those types of guys are you going to have on one football team? You have Devontae Parker, Cortland Sutton, Kendrick Bourne, Juju Smith-Schuster. It's like, all right, so you got a bunch of number 2 receivers. Like, cool. Like, I would rather them, if they're going to roll with what they have, wouldn't you rather them give Tyquan the opportunity? Because that's somebody that has that ceiling that exists, that maybe if Tyquan turns into that they visioned him turning into when they drafted him, that it's going to be better than Cortland Sutton, So I don't know if I really need like another number 3, number 2 guy.
Thanks, Aldred. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go to Willem and Phillum. What's up, William?
Hey, what's up, Fred? How you doing?
All right. You ever been to Sesame Place?
Yeah, when I was real younger, Fred.
Well, okay.
Oh, all right. Oh, wow. There you go. Who's your favorite Sesame Street character, William?
My favorite who was I ain't have a favorite.
It's Cookie Monster.
Cookie Monster.
That's the correct answer.
Elmo gets no love.
I didn't want to, so I'm looking at that.
You an Elmo fan?
All right, I'm gonna just get right to it. Why y'all do that at Eldridge, man? I know y'all heard what that man said. Y'all seriously?
What did he say?
I mean, like, y'all thought, okay, Evan just sat there and said, okay, do I really want another receiver? Corey Sumlin, I'm going to tell you like this. He's better. To me, he's better than Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker can't last a season. Not one. Okay? Hold on. Juju ain't even available right now. He's going to be on the PUP list. Period. He's not ready. He ain't even been on the field.
Let's see.
And y'all don't see him. Who's going to be at training camp? Who's what you going to see? Kendrick Bourne, Tyquan Thornton injured again. He might be a bust if he gets injured again. Would you consider that a bust?
Thornton?
Probably getting into
look at the roster. Come on. Y'all do this every year. Y'all always say the same thing. Well, let's see what they got. What is this? What is that? Nelson Aguilar. You saw what it was. You saw it was with John Smith. You saw what it was.
Okay, so we're not allowed to watch training camp before we start trading everybody? Like, I don't understand.
Evan.
So Cortland Sutton is going to come in here and now they're Super Bowl contenders because they have Cortland Sutton.
Evan.
Is that
4 seasons in? You're 4 seasons in. Your roster is no better.
And Cortland Sutton makes the roster a lot better? Like, we're not talking about like
Evan,
if we're
Evan.
Go ahead.
Evan, you got X factors? Do you really got X factors?
And Cortland Sutton is an X factor? Like, you're talking of like this is the whole thing. Like,
okay.
If it was Jerry Jeudy, it'd be a different thing.
Right.
Okay, and you got what? You got an injury-prone receiver that you paid a couple more million extended for what? 30 years old. Come on now.
I'm just confused. I guess.
Look, I hear what Elger's saying, and I back him up. I agree with him. As long as you got Bill as your GM, this is what your roster gonna look like every year. Matter of fact, I'll ask you this, and I'll leave it at that, because that changed. Because when Elger got on, that changed everything I wanted to say. But I'm gonna say this. I'm going to ask Patriots Unfiltered. I want to ask all of you today, including Alex, all of y'all, okay? If the Patriots don't go, because there's a big chance that you won't make the playoffs. Are y'all ready to move on from Bill, or y'all gonna sit there and keep sitting there and try to get him another chance again in this 5th season?
Wow.
What y'all gonna do?
Well, what's it look like? I mean, you can't just like they go 0-17, or do they go like 10-7 and they just miss it?
Come on, dude. Dude, I know you're a homer with Bill, but come on, you ready to move on?
Oh, but there's a fine line between missing the playoffs by a mile and just missing out.
If he's lost,
Matt got hurt,
if he's lost the team, if they're not listening to him, then it's time. But we'll see.
I think that I have two different. I have gripes with Bill the GM. I have no gripes with Bill the coach. Like Bill can still coach as good as I'll take Bill over the field all day. On Sundays, absolutely. It's two different things, William. It's two different jobs.
Okay.
So Bill the GM, I've had gripes with for many, many years at this point. He doesn't view the roster building process the same way I do. He's the greatest head coach of all time. I don't know anything. All right, so maybe he's right, but let's not be crazy.
It's crazy how y'all use that narrative, and it's 4 seasons in, and this man's supposed to be the greatest coach of all time, but he can't get a Super Bowl, but the greatest quarterback of all time.
Well, do you think you're overvaluing what the greatest coach of all time? You think like the greatest coach of all time should have a terrible roster and should have them making the Super Bowl?
William,
how much can a coach do?
I mean, Don Shula could never win with Dan Marino.
The 2020 Patriots with another coach, the Cam Newton Patriots, are a 3-win football team. Like that team was horrible.
2021, 2022. We're in 2023, gentlemen and ladies. Okay, he didn't show you it yet, has he? Okay, look at your division. Your division got better over the 4 seasons, and look at your team.
He went 11-6 with Matt Castle as the quarterback.
No,
we got Mac Jones our quarterback, but we going up against Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, and then you got Tua that we can't even beat. Like,
if you want to have gripes with Bill the GM, I will get in line with you. Like I got plenty of things to bring up with him from a team building perspective. If you want to sit here and talk X's and O's, like, come on, like what are we doing? Like actually coaching a football team.
Coach of all time. Okay, you say he's the greatest coach of all time. If you so great, why would you put a defensive coordinator?
That's different.
That's not coaching.
That's different. That's not what I'm talking about.
That's not coaching.
I'm talking about game planning. I'm talking about coaching on the practice field.
You wouldn't make no dumb decision like that, Evan.
It was a dumb decision.
But those are two different. It's two different things.
Sugarcoat that, man.
It's two different things, William.
You cannot sugarcoat that.
Now listen. I mean,
y'all all know it. That was the stupidest, dumbest move that
we've all said it. Like we've all said it. We said it when it was happening.
Have you all said?
Yes.
I didn't say it at the time. I'll admit it.
Oh man.
At the time, I didn't say it.
I know Deuce do. He already said he made it known to me. So I'm like, what?
What?
That's all I'm saying. Like, oh man, I mean, come on, y'all. We going the 5th season in. We don't have all the time in the world. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You ain't worried about this team? I am.
Yeah. Well,
Bill ain't gonna get Hopkins. He ain't. What's up? He ain't put more money to the table to bring him over here.
It's going to be a week-by-week thing, William, and I hope you call in every week and we talk about it.
You're not invited to the parade, William.
Thank you.
I hope they win for William because he seems like he's really.
I'm with him like on like a lot of the big picture things that I am worried about the direction of the team from a roster building perspective because I think his views, and when I say his, I mean Bill's views on roster building are antiquated.
Well, I think
they are.
But I think one of the questions is where does head coaching stop and the other jobs start? So in Bill's case, he's in charge of everything, right? So making that decision to put Patricia and Judge in those offensive positions obviously was his choice.
Absolutely.
Is that part of being a head coach or is that part of being the GM?
That's part of being the head coach. I think my point, though, is just that if you take all 32 coaches and you put them all on the whiteboard, I'm taking Bill every single day.
Yeah,
of the week.
I am too.
Yeah. Like every single day. There's nobody that knows more about X's and O's and how to break down film and how to scout an opponent and how to game plan an opponent, how to teach guys. Like we see him out there on the practice field at 70 years old, still getting involved in positional drills, like not even like 11 on 11, but just positional drills of, how to hold the football, how to do, like Kendrick Bourne a couple years ago saying he doesn't fumble as much anymore because of Bill Belichick, because of the drills that they do during practice. I'll take all the micro stuff that Bill does any day of the week. If you want to talk about patrician judge decisions or roster decisions, then you have legitimate gripes with the way that he's run the team the last couple of years.
Matthew's in New Mexico. What's up, Matthew?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Good. Are you a first-time caller?
No, I've called before.
Okay.
I think last time it was about like the Mac Jones, Bill Belichick trading Mac Jones. But I'm just calling, like, when you guys say like the number one defense, it's kind of just like the Bears scored 30 points on us. The Vikings scored 30 points.
Yeah.
All these teams. And I agree with you, Fred. I think Christian's going to make a big difference, but I don't know. It's just, it doesn't grind my gears, but it grinds my gears. You know what I mean?
I think last year's defense was okay. They were challenged when they play the better offenses. There's no doubt. And I think one of the problems was the secondary. I think even with McCourty, they didn't really have, the right cornerbacks in the right places. And hopefully this year they do.
The question I have just with the whole defense thing, and I always go back to this as more of an offense thing, but what team didn't have issues against the great offenses across? Chicago,
that's the NFL.
Chicago's a fair one, and that one was, I think, a much more matchup based to the fact that their quarterback was more athletic than everybody on the field. But when you talk about Buffalo, Minnesota last year with a season that nobody stopped Justin Jefferson. He was the offensive player of the year. Like nobody could cover him. The guy had one of the best receiving seasons in the NFL probably since Moss in 07, or Antonio Brown in his peak. Like, that was an all-time great receiver season. So I think what it comes down to is that it's really, really difficult to be a great defense anymore, and it's really, really difficult to stop these
It's relative.
offenses.
It's like a great defense in 2023 is not a great defense in 1986 or even in the 90s.
And like the hating on Bill, just Bill scheming, that's a top 20 defense with horrible players to me. But last thing I was gonna say, did you guys see what Kirk Herbstreit said about Mac? I try to listen every week. But I don't think you guys talk about it.
We did. Thanks for the call, Matthew.
I mean, he's really, really high on Mac. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot to share that optimism so far from what I've seen. I could do some on the defense all day, and I think you guys are right. I think it's situational. It's just it's just the lack of you've had multiple games a chance to get over the hump against a playoff team, and that's what's frustrating. And Evan's totally right. These are good offenses. They don't everybody. But at some point, you have to get that one key stop, at the end of the game to close it out, and that's I think against the good teams what they haven't been able to do. Their signature win is Detroit, and it's good. They were good offense, no question, but it's not Buffalo, Miami.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Paul's Food's here, so we're going to take a
eat
break.
it for him.
We'll be right back after this.
The New England Revolution are back on the pitch, and this season you can be in the stands to experience it all live. Score great seats for every match from Ticketmaster, the official ticketing partner of the New England Revolution, and you won't miss a single epic moment. And rest assured, if your plans change, Ticketmaster has you covered. You can securely sell your seats to other fans with just a few taps. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com/revolution.
United Healthcare offers coverage plans for all ages and budgets. So even if you're
25,
72,
and if you're
hunting for a job,
newly retired,
a mom of 4,
United Healthcare has low to no cost options designed to fit the budgets and needs of just about everyone. So access to care may be closer than you think. Learn more at UHC.com. United Healthcare is proud to help the New England Revolution defend the fort.
Revolution Soccer is brought to you by Ace Ticket, where New England fans go for tickets to all their favorite events. Visit aceticket.com.
Finally, a phone plan that puts you in charge. Introducing the new My Plan from Verizon. Control what goes into your plan and what stays out of it. Get exactly what you want, only pay for what you need. Get My Plan at your Verizon store today. It's your Verizon.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Bass Pro Shops, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar. Watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
How did Verizon build the fastest 5G in the world? We started by building it right with 5G Ultra Wideband. Then we gave it massive capacity and near zero lag. And it's not just fast, it's 25 times faster than today's 4G networks. This is 5G built right from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. 5G Ultra Wideband available only in parts of select cities. Global claim based on open signal independent analysis. 25 times analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q2 2020.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes.
Oh no.
Replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Some people are never content with simply being good. Not when they can be great. But it takes a big step to get there. In fact, it takes a leap of faith, a belief in what you're striving toward, and a willingness to make the commitment, day in and day out, to something bigger than yourself. Putnam is proud to partner with those who share their own commitment to performance excellence. This is Matt Light for Putnam Investments, a world of investing.
There's no season better than football season, and there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the New England Patriots. To add to the thrill, DraftKings has millions of dollars in prizes up for grabs every week, so head to the app now and check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy football is easy to play. Just pick 9 players, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for yards, touchdowns, receptions, and so much more. There's no better way to put your football knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week. That's promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Patriots fans, you'll want to check out the replay on this one. Pat the Patriot is stealing the show tonight with his Bank of America mobile banking app.
That's right, folks. So here we see Pat cheering, and then whammo! Is that Bank of America life plan?
Looks like he's saving up for some big future moves. Planning the next vacay, huh, big guy?
And wait, now he's paying back his buddy for concessions using Zelle? No penalty there. Incredible.
No way. As if that double move wasn't impressive enough, now he's beefing up his account defense with security meter? Holy cannoli, what a performance.
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive, Patriot fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking. You must be enrolled in online banking or download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Terms and conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Want to get into the game? Get coached up at Dean College. Equipped with exclusive academic partnerships featuring the Patriots, Revolution, Providence Bruins, summer baseball, and more, our classrooms are set up for success by learning directly from the pros. Dean College has programs in communications, sports management, business, and marketing with unprecedented hands-on experiences. Our students take what they learn in the classroom and put it right to work in the marketplace. At Dean College, our students don't just play games, we run them. Visit us at dean.edu.
Finally, a phone plan that puts you in charge. Introducing the new My Plan from Verizon. Control what goes into your plan and what stays out of it. Get exactly what you want, only pay for what you need. Get My Plan at your Verizon store today. It's your Verizon.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Bass Pro Shops, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar. Watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
And now, great moments in history.
Oh, animals get in the
I
trash.
put a bungee cord over mine.
But that doesn't take any time.
It doesn't. I just put a bungee cord over the lid so the animals
So
can't
Eric
get
and I just like
wait until the morning when I wake up,
take the barrel,
and push it out in the
from
front,
the
and that's
garage
it.
to the front.
you
might have
Right.
a lot. You have to take it on the grounds. So from your house to the street is probably
but I also
a
have
cumbersome project.
but
For
like-
me, it's like 2 inches.
But you know,
The
like
sand- I don't have
sandwich.
grounds.
All right,
The
do
sandwich
you guys
estate.
get deliveries?
Yes.
Okay,
Way
so when
too
you,
many.
Right. So when you get your delivery, do you immediately break down the box?
Yes.
Like when you get it?
Yes.
I don't.
Yeah,
Of
for the
course.
most-
I
for the most
wait. I
part.
wait until
Wait for what?
I wait until trash night and then I break down the box.
Well, it also
That's
depends.
that's
I'll take the
inefficiency.
I'll
What?
take the biggest
That's
box.
inefficient.
No, it's
Yes,
not.
it is.
That's very efficient.
I'll take
I'm
the
doing
biggest
it all
box
at
that I
once.
get and throw
No.
a lot of stuff in that bigger box.
How long does it take
I'm
you to break
crazy
down a
like
box?
It depends on how many deliveries I got.
No, but I mean, like your average box, you get like a knife or a
You
blade
know,
or something.
a
It takes
couple
you like
minutes.
a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
It takes 5 seconds. You
Oh, 5 seconds. What are you,
Yes.
Houdini? What are you? 5 seconds.
you cut the you cut the.
You gotta break it down. You gotta fold it up.
that doesn't take 10 minutes, Fred.
I didn't say
What
10
kind of
minutes. Did I
boxes
say
do we-
10 minutes?
That's another great moment from
All right. Those good conversations. All right. 855-PASS-500 is the Ace Ticket Hotline. Web radio at patriots.com is the email address. It's Deuce, it's Alex, it's Evan, it's me, it's Matt in the booth. Catch 22 is after this. Johnny in Madtown, wherever that is, says, Willem and Philem is right. He says, Bill is not as good a coach as you all think he is. It's simple. He needed Brady to bail him out for 20 years. There's a reason Brady has the most fourth-quarter comebacks of all time. He's the GOAT, period. Yes, he had good teams and good coaches, some great like Bill, but Brady bailed us out. Bill is no better than most other great coaches. He's no longer the GOAT coach. He's the coach of the GOAT quarterback. And even that's a stretch because Brady won without Bill. Bill hasn't won without Tom. This is Bill's last year, period. Playoffs at the bare minimum or he has to go. That's
Okay.
Johnny in Madtown.
I guess his game plans for the greatest show on turf and, the Thurman Thomas Bills being in the Hall of Fame means nothing. Just
I would just say what's special about the Patriots was that they won for 20 years. And if you want to tell me that Tom Brady, not including the Tampa Super Bowl, what is 6 Super Bowls, 4 Super Bowls better than Peyton Manning, whatever it is, 5 Super Bowls better than Aaron, like something doesn't connect there. Like I think Tom Brady is the greatest. Is he 4 Super Bowls better than Peyton Manning? I think that there was something else at play there rather than just Tom Brady being awesome and an idiot coach along for the ride, just hoping he doesn't mess it up each season. Like there is something to be said for the rosters that he turned over, some hard decisions that he made. But I also just go back to what do people think that we think? Do you think that we think Bill's such a great coach that you could put a bunch of Pop Warner's kids out there and they'd be competitive because he's the greatest coach of all? There's a certain line of how much a coach can or can't do.
Even Brady, though, said while he was here, hey, I'm just the quarterback. I don't make those decisions. and he's right. There's 22 other guys that play on a given, in a game or 53. And Bill had to be in charge of all those guys, not just Tom Brady. You know, Tom played quarterback, and he played it better than any quarterback has ever played it. But there's a hell of a lot more to the game of football. That's why football's such a great game, you know, because there's so many moving pieces, and you know, that's just the game itself. Forget about now having to deal with professionals and contracts and egos and personalities and then winning and entitlement and all that. That's what made Bill, to me, just the greatest, you know, all-around coach GM ever. All of that, you know. I include the GM part of it. It's, you know, you're dealing with humans, so it's hard to always draft the right guys and always make the right moves because they're human beings. But to do it consistently for 20 years at that level, with or without Tom Brady, you know, what he did, it's never been done before.
I just don't. Did anyone ever come out and say like, "Well, it was all Bill Belichick," or "Oh, it was 50-50"? Like,
well,
I don't
some
ever
people
remember,
were.
like,
No.
Like,
Deuce, we got to remember when we went back, there was a Bill was the reason, and there was a Tom. There was a reason, and then people in the middle said it was 50-50. But there were camps for both. Now that shifted. When Tom left and won in Tampa, the Bill was the reason. People, that's thinned out a little bit. You know, I'm still. They were each great, and they made each other greater. You know, why do we have to pick sides?
Well, and it's just like the vitriol that's like directed towards him now. I just, you know, it's somewhat like, and I like everything we talked about. Like, we have our problems with what he's done with the team over the last few years. But
let me tell you something. If the Patriots had just kind of made the playoffs the last couple of years, and Brady went to Tampa and they did nothing, I'm gonna tell you. You would hear it from the other side too. They would come out and they would feel emboldened. Right now, as they should be, the Brady camp is emboldened. They were proven that this guy can win wherever he goes.
Yeah,
you know?
and I mean they should, but you know, it's just, I guess for me, and you know, maybe there was a degree of being naive towards it all, but it's also just that Tom is on the field. He's like the one who gets the football and has to actually execute. Like, Bill doesn't touch the field. Like, he doesn't play. So, like, it's just, like, common sense-wise, you're not starting at a place from 50-50. You're talking, you know, about an NFL, you know, head coach who is, you know, literally adored by anyone who's serious football people. Like, take, like, fans out of the occasion who just want to see their team win. Like, anytime you see an NFL player of any kind of stature, you know, in Bill Belichick's presence or talking the game with him, you can see that the respect that they have, you know, for him. And I'm not saying that everyone has to like it, but at the same time, it's like just this absolute dismissiveness now where it's like caller after caller lining up to tell us that it was all Tom Brady. Like, okay, great. I'm not sitting here telling you it was all Bill Belichick, but at least acknowledge that you had a really good NFL coach who, guess what, is going to be one of the greatest NFL coaches of all time forever, who's always going to be linked with the Patriots. And at some point, I just hope for some of these people, it can go back to a point of saying, hey, it didn't go great maybe at the end, and maybe it was more Tom than Bill, but we had something special going on, and we were lucky to have a Hall of Fame NFL coach who, you know, is universally respected by people within the game. That's, you know, that's just what just starts to frustrate me.
That's why it's just such a simpleton thing to even debate. Like, we had a summer of that debate that was just junk food of sports media feeding it to us after Tom left. And for some reason, it's just stuck. But it's like, it's so simpleton. This is such a nuanced game. It's such a nuanced conversation. It's like
22 guys out there. And I mean, that's, you know, and that's what you have a hand in. And I, like, in no way do I want this to say, like, I'm trying to downplay Tom Brady. Like, what Tom Brady did in the clutch is like generational in sports. I mean, that.
But same
to
with
me,
Malcolm
what
Butler.
him, you know?
Same with James Smith.
Right, and so we can go right through, to your point,
James
we
White,
can go
rather?
right through in every single Super Bowl and say, yeah, Tom played, I mean, some were better than others.
The Rams Super Bowl.
But you needed other plays in all those Super Bowls,
Right.
you know? And that isn't going to go away.
Al from Wisconsin, guys, I feel like every time people talk about moving on from Bill, you always bring up how great of a coach he is. You're right. He's a great coach. But if they miss the playoffs again, no matter how it looks, we need to think about moving on. Maybe Bill, the GM, plus Bill, the coach, equals middling football team. At some point, the failings at GM overshadows the greatness at coach.
It's like easy to say that too, but like if you're, I mean, maybe I wouldn't be a great CEO and president of a football team, but do you want to be the person to fire Bill Belichick? Because I don't.
And that's a hard decision.
Well, I think
even if I felt it, even if I wanted to.
I think ideally it just kind of
He's ready to
happens,
to
like
show.
right, like
Yeah.
it just kind of fizzles out, and
Yeah.
everybody sort of just agrees it's the best thing. But I think that I try to remain somewhat patient because I do think that it has to be said that the Patriots are in a rebuild. They are rebuilding, and that rebuild was not of moving on from the greatest quarterback of all time, which was going to happen whether they did it when they did it or they did it 2 years later. Like at some point, Brady was going to retire, and it was going to have to hit the reset. You were going to have to hit the reset button, and yes, they are going into year 4 of this rebuild now. I count the Cam Newton year. I don't know if Bill counts the Cam Newton year, but I count the Cam Newton year. They're going into year 4 of it. Now you do have to start seeing some results. And we've talked a lot about some of the young players that they've drafted over the last couple of years that maybe can be a part of that next generation. If that all flops on its head and goes nowhere, then I'm starting to run out of patience as well. But you have to recognize that Rome wasn't built in a day. Like I find me a team other than the Packers that just lucked into moving on from Brett Favre right into Aaron Rodgers. Like that doesn't normally happen in that seamless of a transition. So you had to give it some time to see if it stuck. And now it is getting to put up or S up time now. I'm not doing it.
You can say shut up.
I'm not doing it.
But it's like, and that's something that I think I've wrestled with
listening.
over the last few years is just like, what's reasonable? What's a reasonable expectation for that? And certainly you have a higher expectation because we have thrown so many bouquets of flowers at as a coach. But I think you're totally right, Evan. To your point, it's and there's more to just being the GM. There's also being the coach who develops the players. And if the young guys that I want aren't developing, then I'm in that boat too.
Yeah.
But I think, that's where I start to pause is, all right, well, what if some of these young guys this year start to show something? What if, Mac Jones has an outstanding year, where you say, I think he's better than Tua for sure now. Like he's really, that's where it gets murky for me because we should give amount of time. I don't know. Some people might have said you didn't get to the playoffs in 2020 and you're out and that's it. Other people probably would say, oh, he can go forever. But for me, it's the young players. And if the young players show no signs of development this year and we feel like we're, again, on a talent-devoid team that doesn't really seem like it has pieces to build around, then I'm with all the angry callers.
Yeah.
Would you say that as opposed to like the other 3 major sports in the United States, that a rebuild in football has to be faster than the others just because of length of career and contracts in the NFL and
so many positions though too. I mean, it's it's easy in basketball and hockey. I mean, you could get one key player and it really changes your franchise. With football, you probably need at least 2 or 3,
and you have to hold on to them,
and you have to be able to pay them, and they want to have to stay.
So I think it's a tough. Without the quarterback, it's a tough league to rebuild.
Right. That's and that was sort of my Aaron Rodgers point was like, unless you luck into just falling into that quarterback instantly in a rebuild, like let's look around the division. Like the teams around the division are perpetually rebuilding because they haven't until really with Buffalo, I guess, with Josh Allen. But the Jets are putting a Band-Aid on their quarterback problem because Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old. So it's how long is that really going to last? So in a couple years, the Jets will be back looking for a quarterback all over again. Yep. They've now drafted Mark Sanchez, Sam Darnold, and Zach Wilson, and failed 3 times at the quarterbacks in the top 10. Not even. So you have to really think about like this is it. Like welcome to life in the NFL for everybody else. Yeah. And I think that's like the one thing of patience that I will have with Bill. The only thing that I really have like a major gripe with him is that I still think he's operates from a roster building perspective like he has Tom Brady. Like I'm just going to collect Juju Smith-Schuster and Devontae Parker and I'm going to fill out the middle class of the roster and then we're going to be strong on defense and I'm going to coach everybody up on defense and we're going to be good there and all that kind of stuff. And offensively, well, we have Tom Brady, so he's going to put up 30 a game. But the problem is they don't have Tom Brady anymore. So now you have to really start to change how you look at that side of the football, and I don't really feel like he has. But as somebody that watches film from everybody around the league, I am taking Bill Belichick's defensive install over 31 other teams. Like, trust me when I tell you that not only the diversity of the scheme, like the amount of things that they have in their Rolodex, but just like the foundation of it and how sound it is and how positionally sound they are. Like, how often do I say it all the time? How often do we call out like, oh, well, they just busted that coverage. Like, why is that guy by himself for 30? That never happens.
Yep.
It never happens, and they're really structurally sound. They have every single thing at their disposal. They can play zone, they can play man, they can blitz, they can back off. Like, they can do everything, and they're really well coached on that side of the football. But I thought, Deuce, your point about developing talent is really important too, and we've touched on this, but losing some of those assistant coaches over the years and all of the assistant coaching talent that's left, whether it's been from retirement or just left with Josh McDaniels, including Josh McDaniels, but with Josh McDaniels, I think that really is a undertold story. Like, you get Dante Scarnecchia retires, Ivan Fears retires, Josh McDaniels takes the other 75% of the offensive coaching staff with him to Vegas. You got guys like, that are on the defensive side of the ball that are starting to get some experience, but Gerard Mayo was a relatively young coach a couple years ago, and Steve was a relatively young coach a couple years ago, and that is part of it.
It is part of it, the brain drain. Josh in Turner's Fall says, first off, the Swedish Chef is the greatest Muppet Sesame Street character.
That's a good one.
That's
is that more Muppets, though? Is there a delineation between Muppets? Oh, Matt's giving me the knowing nod.
Yeah, that's Muppets, right? I don't even know what that is.
Beaker? Beaker?
I wasn't a big Muppets guy.
Secondly, and I promise this will be the last time I mention this player, if we don't get D-Hop, which at this point I'm over it, if he comes, it'll be begrudgingly, and I'm not positive that that's what the team needs. Would you entertain Dalvin Cook? My reasoning is that you guys have discussed the Patriots wanting to have one back on one drive, different one on the next one. He can catch and run it. Teams wouldn't assume one way or the other on a given play, and keep Stevenson and Cook healthy and fresh week after week. I like Strong and Harris, but if this is the see what Matt can do season, I'd like to see a dynamic-ish player added. And thirdly, going to my first training camp on the 28th, any tips or insights would be great.
Try to find some shade.
So we're actually doing tips and insights into training camp next week on Catch 22. So if you listen to Catch 22, we're going to do a little playbook of how to attend Patriots training camp. So
there's been some construction, though. They've taken some trees out, I think, so there isn't the same valuable shade spots on the side of the hill that I would always
bring sunscreen.
Yeah, bring sunscreen.
Big hat, wide-brimmed
hat.
Oh, yeah.
Canopy
water.
Dalvin Cook, I don't know. I guess I'm holding out hope that they can just rely on the two rookies from last year. And I'm also like, yeah, he's a weapon, but I'm like, I need passing game. Get people that move the needle, like, receiver. Like, how much is Dalvin Cook going to change the course of the Patriots season with this roster currently? I just have trouble seeing him being like, yeah, maybe he'll come in and be a nice complimentary piece to Ramondre, but are they going to take over games and be dominant? I struggle to see that happening right now.
I'm with you that I don't know how much Dalvin Cook necessarily moves the needle, but like if I have to have a consolation prize, would I rather have Dalvin Cook or not have Dalvin Cook? I'll take Dalvin Cook, I guess. I think that if you're going to be this type of team that they're set up to be right now, you might as well go all in on being like a ball control, ground and pound offense with play action incorporated that plays good defense and tries to win with complementary football. Like that's the playbook that they're trying to follow. That's the script that they're trying to follow. Then they might as well just,
if you're gonna do it, do it.
Do it. Yeah.
But wouldn't it be so frustrating to see them address like running backs as opposed to something in the secondary or a receiver? Like I
think but like you have to go back to like what's available, right? Like Dalvin Cook is the best player outside of DeAndre Hopkins that's available on the market. Like I would love for them to use their cap space to sign a tackle, but like what tackle is helping them right now that's available? So if out of all the players that are out there, if it can't be DeAndre Hopkins and it has to be Dalvin Cook, I would at least take Dalvin Cook.
Back to the phone. Sean's in Vancouver. What's up, Sean?
I want to talk about Robert Kraft hopefully getting into the Hall of Fame.
Nice.
He's eligible again, and there's no owner more deserving. He's the best owner in professional sports history. You look at the Patriots, where they were before Robert Kraft, this team was a patsies. I mean, the problem is that Sullivan didn't have the bankroll to run an NFL franchise properly, and that's never been a problem with Robert Kraft. I mean, they lost players like Nick Buoniconti because of salary issues and union kind of aspirations. And there was Russ Francis, who they didn't pay him his bonus, so he retired, and then they had to trade him. And Mike Haynes also, they had to trade to the Raiders because they wouldn't pay one of the best cornerbacks in the history of the game. Chuck Fairbanks, the coach in the playoffs, they lost him because they were next on the contract for Stingley, who they definitely should have paid, even though he was paralyzed. That was really shameful. So you look at the Sullivans compared to where they went, no brainer. And then if you look at what he's done for the league, the NFL wasn't nearly where it was prior to Robert Kraft becoming an owner, and he's really helped the NFL become the dominant sports league in North America. It took over from baseball by leaps and bounds. You look at the television contracts. You look at what he did, bringing the players and the owners together in terms of disputes, and him getting over what most people would never have gotten over in terms of the insults that have been put upon him by the commissioner, who is not a great commissioner, and he's looked past it. He's done everything for the league. He definitely should be in the Hall of Fame. It's not like the Hall of Fame doesn't have owners in there already. I mean, you have Jerry Jones. He's
listen, if
definitely
you're going to
a
put an owner
better
in,
owner.
he should be next on the list.
There's
no
15 in there.
doubt. Yeah.
Look at Charles Bidwell. He owned the Cardinals from 33 to 47. That was a terrible. Everyone in Chicago went to Bears games. No one went to Cardinals games, and then he dies, and so that's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. You can't do
The team have to leave. They went to St. Louis.
Yeah. So Robert Kraft is a semifinalist in the contributor category. So let's hope. Let's hope he gets in.
Let's also get the steamer in, please.
That was
Stanley Morgan.
Yes.
Both of them.
There's actually on that veteran list. There's some good players.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good, worthy players.
Yeah. I am in full agreement with Sean.
You better be
about Robert Kraft going to the Hall of Fame. But if I could ask him like a truth serum question, if I had one question, no hurt feelings whatsoever, that I could ask him, I would just ask him like, what's his take on the real cash spending argument? And I don't care about it necessarily, but I'm just like curious about like what is because he wants to win more than anybody else. I know that, and I know that he knows how to build a winning franchise, but I'm genuinely curious like what's like the disconnect there then, like, because Bill says it, like, I'm not saying it from my point of view, like your head coach is telling the media, is pointing out to the media that you're X in real cash spending as a kind of like a feather in his cap, like I built this roster without spending a ton of money. And I don't think that there's a budget. I don't think that, because I can't imagine that would be the case. I mean, obviously there's a budget, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that they're really doing that. I'm genuinely curious. Like, it's nothing to do with his Hall of Fame candidacy. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be in. But,
right.
Well,
but
especially when he comes out with, spending money on players is never going to be an issue.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
I mean, again, I would feel bad if there were players that I felt they should have been spending on that they didn't. And, I mean, right now it's like I'd love them to extend somebody, but who do you really feel like, that money has to go to? So
that's why I
just want the problem is to have the guys to resign.
Yeah.
I know Robert Kraft is not one to just waste money. Like everything has to have a value and, a true value put to it. And, so he's not here to waste money, but
I think
in today's market, sometimes you got to extend a little bit, and this could be, the Hopkins thing could be one of those cases where just give him a little extra,
Well, there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, I know Bill brought up getting paid nothing as a low-level assistant, and I think that's probably still, a practice that happens. And so, I mean, I think some of it is tied to some of that old school kind of stuff that, this is kind of how it is. This is how you earn your stripes. I mean, I know Bill was an economics major at Wesleyan, so I'm sure that, there is, some strategic thinking into it as well. But I don't know, when they've had the really good players, the players that you really, how many times over 20 years did you feel like you lost a player because they just didn't want to pay him, and if you just paid him, it would have worked out? I mean, I don't think that there were a lot of those examples. You were able to hang on to Brady the whole time. You were able to hang on to
there's
Gronk.
also zero correlation between real cash spending and wins. Like the teams that spend the most don't. It doesn't mean that you're automatically going to win just because you have the highest payroll.
They will point to that.
Right.
And I think I've talked about it before. That locker room structure.
Part of it too. Sure.
The pecking order is part of it too, and not disrupting that. And
But I hate to keep going back to this point, but again, like, when does money become a factor with a football team? When you have to go to free agency or you have to retain your players. Like, that's when money becomes a factor. If you draft well, if you draft stars, if you draft consistently, it matters a whole lot less about what your concerns about money are, how much you do or don't want to spend, because you can either A, keep the guy, or you have confidence in your program that you're going to draft and develop another guy, to replace him. I mean, I think the Steelers are a good example of a team that, certainly in specific position groups have, done a good job of maintaining kind of a high level of performance. And you think of all the players that were there and left, and Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, guys that are there, productive. They lose them and they are able to replace them. So all that money stuff goes out the window if you're able to draft consistently.
It's just like, why? I wholeheartedly believe that when Bill goes to Mr. Kraft and says, like, we want to pay DeAndre Hopkins $15 million, like,
Ooh.
can you write the check, please? I do not think Mr. Kraft is saying
could
no
you do
ever.
12?
Ever. Right. So to me, it's like, then it's Bill, right? Like, it's Bill that is trying to, kind of to Fred's point about, like, the hierarchy and, like, the structure the certain way. And at what point is that not the best way, right? So I don't know. I just
see one.
It's a tricky question.
There's one
obviously.
word that Bill feels really important. It's loyalty. Like, he's very loyal to those who are loyal to him, and so you bring in a player and you give him a certain amount of money, and he falls into a certain slot, and it's almost like disloyal if you bring in this guy at the last minute and all of a sudden he leapfrogs above everybody. I do think that whole thing of the perception of those that are under him is important to him.
Yeah.
I
mean, we saw it with Devontae Parker. Like, all these rumors come out about DeAndre Hopkins, and the next week they are paying Devontae Parker.
Yeah.
So I definitely think it is a factor.
I think loyalty has always been a big thing for him.
But you just wonder how much it's going to get him in trouble, and like the Patricia thing. And
sometimes
it got him in trouble last year.
Yeah,
loyalty is probably why no one else was brought in.
I would love, Evan, truth serum, if I could borrow some and give it to Matt Patricia. I just love to know what he thought about last season, what he thought was put on his plate, how it was explained to him. Does he feel like he was treated fairly? Was he hung out to dry? Like, he got put in such a tough position last year.
Yeah, it is, and I'm sure like he feels like if things had been different, he could have succeeded. Like,
did he want to leave? Did they want him to leave? Did he want to go somewhere else?
But that's the kind of thing where in football, like, if you sound like you don't know what you're talking about right away, these players, they're like dogs. They're not going to follow you if you don't instill confidence in them that you know what you're talking about.
Right.
They don't have time for that. It's like, don't F with my career,
and that's certainly how the quarterback felt.
Yeah. You're effing with my money,
And too, it's also, do you want to have the perception of every shiny thing that comes along, you're going to throw a big bunch of money at? And I mean, I think that, as much as, like you said, Fred, the power structure, but it's
look
also
at Daniel Snyder back when he first bought that's what they did, and they won nothing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always work. You need the great coach. You need the quarterback.
And some magic. You need some bounces to go your way too.
Yeah.
That's like another part of it. That
Christian in L.A. What's up, Christian? Turn down the internet, Christian.
I'm out. I'm out the car park getting my tires changed. You guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to try to add something to this great debate about Tom Brady's importance to the success of the franchise as opposed to Bill Belichick. I think people are missing the fact that what Tom Brady had to be good at was about 2 or 3 things: reading defenses, putting players in position to catch the ball and run, keeping his body intact, and maybe being friendly around the locker room. What Bill Belichick needed to be great at, was developing players, developing talent, developing coaches, maintaining all three of those, keeping a defensive scheme that was ever evolving and amongst the best of all time as far as his schemes going, being the CEO of $1 billion franchise, managing the media, and every single ego of, young millionaires in the locker room. So when you take a look at what Tom had to be great at and what Bill had to be great at, there's no comparison. Sure, Tom was the greatest quarterback in the world at reading defenses and throwing the ball to guys in places he positioned them to be at. But in the immortal words of a woman that I don't like to quote, but I will in this specific instance, until Tom Brady started throwing and catching the ball at the same time, everybody else was what he relied on, and everybody else was put on that team, developed, and kept on that team by Bill Belichick. I'll leave you with this analogy. It's like there's this great family that's the ideal family. Mom's doing great, dad's doing great, the kids are all getting good grades, they live in $1 million home. Mom leaves that family, and everyone thinks, well, the mother is the core of a family. When she leaves, the family's going to get chaotic. Sure, Mom went to a better husband with a better and bigger house and did well. That's expected. What got left behind was Dad and the kids. Dad managed to get the kids B's and B pluses. I don't think there's anyone in the world that would say that family's not still doing great. Tom Brady didn't go to a team that didn't have good players, didn't have a great defense, and didn't have a good coaching, and didn't have a good organization. He went to a team that had great defense, even better offensive weapons, a coach that was just as good or renowned just as much as Bill Belichick, and an organization that was willing to bend over backwards to do exactly what Tom Brady needed to continue his greatness.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to what it took to make the organization great, when you look at what happened even over the last 4 years, I think most franchises would take 2 playoffs in 4 years. For most of them, that's more than their franchises have accomplished in decades.
Yeah.
A team like Dallas, a team like the Vikings. So lay off of what you're saying Bill Belichick hasn't done since Tom left and what Tom has done since he left, going to a better team with more offensive weapons.
Well, thanks. I'll push back a little bit about Brady going to Tampa. If you recall, the year before, Tampa had underperformed. Their culture was a mess. And one of the things that Brady did right away was he came in as the alpha dog, and he changed that culture. And Bruce Arians even admitted it. He's the head coach, that he changed our culture. So you got to give Brady credit for that too, because that team with pretty much the same cast of characters had underperformed the year before.
Yeah.
So
COVID helped too, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, Bill.
I kind of like the analogy though.
I was following it.
I don't know. There was a lot going on.
We're still getting
the B
plus. Like, where's the dad?
We're still
going?
getting B's.
Tom left our dad for a richer guy. It's very simple.
Well, he did the same with Giselle, so it's cool.
Well, if the kids could play football, then we would have been
Giselle,
better.
I think, is the one that left.
Amir from Israel says regarding the bi-weekly rant from William and company. Like Evan said, welcome to the rest of the NFL. The things you blame Bill on are not exclusive to the Patriots. Can't draft receivers? How many good receivers have the Ravens drafted recently? Issues with the O-line? I watched a lot of football last year. I think 80% of the teams have O-line issues. The offense is missing weapons. Take the Bills' offense. Remove Diggs, and you will. And will you like to make a switch with their wide receivers, their tight ends, running back? It all boils down to having the franchise quarterback, which are extremely hard to find. Until you find a true game-changer quarterback, you won't be great.
So the pushback that I'll have on that is that I think you can do it without the franchise quarterback, but you can't do it the way they're doing it without the franchise quarterback. Because San Francisco was in a Super Bowl and then was Brock Purdy injury away from maybe being in another Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy, right? And
elite scheme and weapons.
Yeah, elite scheme and weapons. And yes, I think that the easiest path is certainly by landing Patrick Mahomes. Like, if you get Patrick Mahomes and everything else can just be what it is, and it's definitely the easiest way to go about it. But you can be a Super Bowl contender without Patrick Mahomes. You just need to build the roster up around him, and San Francisco has been doing that for going on 4 or 5 years now. So They're a team that I always use as an example. Like even the Eagles team that the Patriots lost to, Nick Foles takes over for Carson Wentz, and they still win the Super Bowl. Like those are teams that did it without having Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow even.
So you think it's more Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't know.
Have we gotten to that point in the Chiefs yet?
But I think you
They're
have to
tearing
pick
each other apart, trying to figure out who's
you have to
more
pick a road.
They haven't even broken up yet.
You have to pick a road. If you're gonna have the Brock Purdy's and the Jimmy Garoppolos of the world at quarterback,
go get Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
And you got to make sure
Right.
that they have everything around them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, I guess, a point for your Dalvin Cook argument.
Neil says Grover is the greatest.
Grover's
Sesame
very
Street.
sweet. I like Grover.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Let's go
I'll
to
allow it.
Gerald in Las Vegas. What's up, Gerald?
Hey guys, I was just when it comes down to the whole Patriots and Tom versus Bill thing, I see this way: if it wasn't for Bill drafting Tom and giving Tom the opportunity, we would never know if Tom would ever become as successful as he was. And then the whole DeAndre Hopkins thing. I'm with it if they get him. If they not, I'm okay with who we got. It's just time to put up and show everybody that we can actually play football this year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I do think that's
Thanks, Gerald.
And it's such a layered thing, and we break it down into sports radio. But the fact that Tom, I picked fine. Any team could have picked him through 6 rounds basically, but the access that Tom Brady had to Bill Belichick's mind of the game, and how Bill Belichick sees defenses, and having weekly Tuesday meetings with a coach who has seen everything there is to see in the league. Like, you can't tell me that wasn't a huge part in making Tom Brady who he was.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from Tom Brady. Again,
I love how we have to.
I always
do
have
that.
to. Well, you just. But like what he did in the clutch, like that's not Bill. Some of the preparation is like he knows what's coming. He knows, he feels prepared to deliver in the clutch. But those things are unique to him, as well as his just undeniable work ethic, that the guy is absolutely psychopath when it comes to training for football, and that's a big part of it too.
I think one of the more like ballsy decisions in NFL history was picking Tom over Drew Bledsoe. Like when you really think about that, like picking a 6th-round quarterback that couldn't even really start for his college team over a former number 1 overall pick who you just handed a huge contract to, and all these types of things. Was at that point, Drew was by far the best quarterback in Patriots history. Like I had no offense to Steve Grogan, but like I think that's like not an argument.
No.
And he had the wherewithal to stick to his guns and trust his eyes.
He did, but I think at that point, it was an easy decision. They were on a roll, right?
Like you're saying, middle of the season.
Yeah,
after,
they were going to be 0-2 with Bledsoe, and they had been terrible the year before, and I know they had a terrible roster, but there was something happening with Brady, and what Bill sees that we don't see is how the practices were going, and how the other players were reacting.
Well, that's why I would love to ask Bill, like, what was your moment where it was like, all right, Tom Brady is the guy? Because like, did it come down to like the final drive in the Super Bowl when he put him in field goal range, and then he was like, well, now he can't go back, like because when was the moment?
An interesting a quote that I dug up when I did the 2001 podcast was Bill himself saying that we had real quarterback problems in camp. Like in camp, they were unhappy with Bledsoe and how it was going, and I think that was right into the first game. They're going against that Jets team. They can't even move the ball or score any points before Bledsoe. But I totally live your point though, and it's always interesting to me to hear from Paul, who started as a Drew Bledsoe super fan and then came into this job, and even he was on board with that switch by the time it happened, which we know he's pretty stubborn. It has to it'd have to be real for him to make that switch, and he did. But growing up here, when Bledsoe came, it was like the Patriots came alive, and that it still is. I totally see what you're saying though about just how do you go from a 10-year, $100 million contract to 7 months later, I
think frankly, I think the decision to go from Kozar to Testaverde was a tougher decision than it was to go at that time from Bledsoe to Brady.
Yeah, it's a great point though. It's just it's inescapable. I think about Josh McDaniels too, having to make similar kind of decisions where you have a quarterback and you don't. To Evan's point, it's hard, and there's no really easy answers usually. Like even the decision to stick with Brady could have been a flash in the pan, and you send Drew to the Bills, and all of a sudden the Patriots are getting hammered by the Bills.
Listen, even after the Super Bowl and the Patriots extended him, people were still like, Oh, a little too early for that, you know.
Well, he threw like one touchdown pass in the playoff. You know, like, I mean, you could, if you wanted to highlight it the right way with that playoff run, you could probably talk yourself into
I
being
just feel like it would have been, in my eyes, like the easier decision would have been sticking with Drew because he was the proven
make Tom beat him out again,
right?
in
Like,
02.
And so to have the guts to stick to it and stick to the path. And I'd also just say, you know, like my opinion on Belichick's hand in Brady's development really changed when you hear Brady talk about it.
Yeah.
And about, you know, he was on something recently where he started tearing up, like talking about like what Bill early in the early years. He always references the early years. He doesn't really talk too much about the,
because then he was probably on his own program.
Yeah. But the early years, you know, just talking about how he had like this like Mr. Miyagi character who just like took him under the wing and showed him every single thing, like how to be an NFL quarterback. And Tom, you know, obviously took it from there and made it what it was. But I think if the man himself is telling you how much Bill meant to his development, then you got to.
No, that's not how I see
He's
it.
just saying that's being nice.
But you know what I was gonna say, Evan, is tie it though back to, you know, what you were saying earlier about Bill's kind of philosophy of team building. And you look at the difference between the quarterback that Drew Bledsoe was and the quarterback that Tom Brady was. And I think when you look at it kind of through the lens of what you talked about of his philosophies of team building, we have a tall, immobile quarterback who certainly has a great arm, but is not always going to make the best decisions and is going to probably be bombs away and it's going to be hit or miss. Or I got this other guy who, you know, he's a 6th-round pick. He's always going to kind of be a little bit wide-eyed about being a 6th-round pick. And he makes the right decisions and he gets the ball where I want it to go every single time. You know, so I think tying it all together, it's like, right, I kind of see why.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think it took a lot of guts. And you know, the Crafts, like Bledsoe was considered like the 5th son. You know, the whole, you know, Robert really still has a lot of affection
Prince of
for
Foxborough.
Bledsoe. And I remember at the time, you know, when the decision was made, I didn't hear one word.
Oh no, they didn't need.
I can't believe
they didn't need Fred's input. Oh no, they didn't consult.
They were all. Everybody was all in on that decision. That was not.
Yeah.
There was no divide with that decision.
And Drew's such a great guy too. I mean, it's like football's one thing, but just even the guy that he was and is, and how much he's still beloved. I mean, that's my favorite thing. Is just that Patriots Nation has embraced him, and he always has a special place at the table for what he meant to this organization.
Listen, Bledsoe was huge. Like you said, he was the best quarterback on this team ever up to the point that Brady got here, you know, and by far.
You sat through games in the early 90s, and then all of a sudden you have this tall quarterback throwing bombs all over the place, shows up and beats Dan Marino. Like, whoa. Yeah.
I mean, and other than Ben Coates,
getting hot over there.
And other than Ben Coates, it's not like he had Randy Moss
Sean
or any of
Terry
those.
Glenn.
Terry Glenn. Yeah,
you know,
Troy. I mean, coming on later.
But Troy was not Troy back then.
No.
Oh, no.
But I do really appreciate what Deuce is saying,
Brisbane.
that Patriots Nation really has seemed to embrace Drew. Like,
he's
like it's never
right
been
there with him. He's like part of the dynasty.
Yeah, it's
you know?
never been like any sort of negative.
Good thing we got rid of you. So
Yeah.
No. Troy's in Virginia. What's up, Troy?
Troy Brown?
Troy.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, Troy.
For one, thank you. And I'm a big fan, especially on Catch 22.
Coming up next.
I would like to say, yes. I would like to put, light on the situation. It's going to get worse before it gets better. We've been feeling that ever since Tom Brady left. But this is Mac Jones, pretty much third time working with another coordinator. When we lost Tom Brady, of course, that we had to work with Cam Newton. Cam Newton, new to the system, had to work through it. Cam Newton didn't work out. Now we have Matt Jones, but we lost Josh McDaniels the year after that.
Yep.
Yet we was able to see how Mac Jones worked with a offensive coordinator. So now that we do have an offensive coordinator now, and the roster did get better from last year on the offensive end. We still kind of shaky on the O-line, but we have to trust in the process. We've been sitting in this seat ever since we lost Tom Brady, but we just have to trust in the process. It gets better before it gets worse, and then when we're starting to see it get better again. So we just got to have patience. And we see who's rocking during training camp. Thank you.
Thanks, Troy.
Thanks, Troy.
Thanks for listening.
Yep, thanks,
Yeah.
Troy. Good call. Let's go to Jody in Georgia, who will finish up the show. What's up, Jody?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, Jody.
Hey, I just wanted to bring up something that I feel like kind of gets overshadowed a little bit with the offense last year. Bill and Patriots have always been known for, like, discipline, but we had so many penalties that just, like, fizzled out so many drives and stuff last year. I just wanted to get y'all's opinion on why you think that was. Do you think it was because of the offensive coordinators and just the way the offense was ran? Or just trying to get your thoughts on that.
No, I do think it's significant, and I mean, people call in and talk about like some of the sloppiness. Like,
thanks, Jody.
I do. I mean, I'd connect most of it. Just everybody not being on the same page, and I think that's just
going
the
so
issue.
early
We saw it in training camp,
Yeah.
like guys like lining up incorrectly or like illegal formation flags in those joint practices, and you just see the ref on the sideline just throw the flag up in the air before the ball snapped.
Not coordinated.
It was. I've never seen, like, in my 28 years, I'd never seen a training camp offense like that. And, I just kept saying, well, they'll figure it out. With new coordinator, they'll figure it out. And they never really did. But it didn't look good from the beginning. And
No.
it was just apparent. It was apparent.
And I would say, too, because I went back and looked at my notes I kept from last year's, like, OTAs and everything. And, hard to tell a lot from the OTA minicamp stuff. But, a lot of the same themes. And I know Paul says, we didn't know till training camp. I think we had some glimpses of even in OTAs. And so I don't want to pump it up too much. But I would just say, in these OTAs, it just looked like they were functioning. They were on the same page.
More
they seemed
efficient.
coordinated.
Ball wasn't on the
generally.
ground. It's just. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Patriots Unfiltered. Appreciate everyone calling, writing, listening. Coming up next is Evan and Alex with Catch 22. So we'll hear a little bit more from Evan's encounter with Mac Jones yesterday, I'm sure. And next week, remember, they have their special training camp FAQ. But until then, we'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.